Chapter 138. Death Mage stood up while trembling. This is my first time seeing His Honor's face. I am really too lucky. I am too excited. We are both undead, but His Honor is so outstanding. I am left in the dust, Li Gu grinned. Little skeleton, you are not bad. Your luck with women is not bad. Death Mage lowered his head, not daring to make any unnecessary movements and not daring to speak casually. Yi Hua said faintly, "Come out and take a look." Everyone walked out of the toilet. "Do you know that woman?" Yi Hua asked gravely. Death Mage did not dare to be negligent. "Your Honor, I know her. She said that you have tainted her innocence. Is that true?" Yi Hua continued to ask. Death Mage went into a daze. Tainted her innocence? How? With my fingers? Your Honor, this is purely framing subordinate. I hope that Your Honor can return subordinate's innocence. Subordinate's innocence cannot be tainted by a woman. Death Mage immediately kowtowed. This woman is too shameless to actually complain about me in front of His Honor. Isn't it just removing your title as a female slave to actually make such a big fuss in front of His Honor? Hateful humans. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have made the bet. I lost again. Yi Hua took out a cigarette, and Li Gu immediately got angry. Li Gu breathed out a mouthful of smoke. Do you dare to say it clearly to her face? Subordinate dares. Death Mage said gravely. All right, we will be witnesses then. If you dare to lie to me, you should know what will happen to you. Yi Hua said faintly. His words contained a majestic might, causing Death Mage to not dare to make any small movements. Subordinate understands. Subordinate will confront this woman right now. Death Mage was rather angry as well. I didn't kill this woman, and yet this woman actually came to disturb His Honor's cultivation. Luckily, His Honor didn't blame me. If not, even if I were to die 10,000 times, I wouldn't be able to absolve myself from the blame. Damn, this subordinate of yours is not bad. This show is definitely going to be fun to watch. Li Gu said softly at the side. Wei Chang let out a sigh. How can my subordinate possibly get close to a woman? It is completely impossible. Death Mage could be seen walking over slowly and stopped 5 meters away from Sun Fang. Sun Fang turned her head and looked towards Death Mage, and the two's gazes intersected in the air. Confirmed gaze, I met the right person. When Li Gu saw the gazes of the two of them, he couldn't help but sing out slowly. That feeling of deep affection seemed to be reminiscing about his mother dragon. Sun Fang was already drunk to the point of dizziness, but when she saw that skull face, her blurred eyes instantly surged with killing intent. Without saying anything, she raised her sword and rushed forward. To a person who was already drunk, their brain might be able to move, but their body would not be able to keep up with the rhythm. As a result, Sun Fang directly pounced into Death Mage's embrace. Wei Chang stretched out his hand and covered Li Gu's eyes. Children shouldn't look. Li Gu immediately slapped Li Gu's hand away. What? You want to monopolize such a good show? What if she wants to take off her clothes? As expected, this is a good show. Yi Hua muttered. Death Mage was alarmed. This feeling doesn't come from the woman, but from His Honor who is at the side. Sun Fang was feeling dizzy, and the long sword in her hand had already fallen onto the ground. Her small fist landed onto Death Mage's chest. Yi Hua and his two subordinates went into a daze. Why does this action seem so familiar? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, you skeleton, to actually forcefully kiss me and destroy my chastity. I'm going to kill you. Not only did this kind of tone not have any lethality, it was more like a woman who was acting coquettishly. For example, Yi Hua was able to sense that Qinya would often say some unrealistic things. This time, Wei Chang finally understood what was going on. It seems like it was his subordinate who forcefully kissed another woman, and the other party was the kind of woman who viewed chastity as her life. I'm going to kill you. While speaking, Sun Fang became drunk. To her, the past few days were too tiring. Yi Hua brought Wei Chang and Li Gu over and said, Do you know your crime? Death Mage was greatly startled and immediately knelt down. Your Honor, please spare my life, subordinate. Subordinate only lowered my head. She didn't resist and subordinate didn't destroy her chastity. Then, before you kissed her, did you get the other party's permission? Yi Hua asked gravely. Death Mage actually started sweating, and after a while he said, "Subordinate knows his crime." Yi Hua snorted, and Wei Chang and Lai Gu immediately stood there obediently. "I have already told you two before. We are here to cultivate our humanity, and we have to look at things from a human's point of view. How could you go and forcefully kiss someone without getting the other party's permission? Fortunately, you are my subordinate's subordinate. If not, I would have stewed you." Yi Hua gave out a severe criticism. Is it glorious for something like this to be spread out? For a subordinate's subordinate to have to forcefully kiss a human, and that human came to me to reason with me. If this was to be spread out, where would my face be? Death Mage was exulted. "Thank you, Your Honor, for not killing me. Tell me what happened once. Lai Gu, bring the hops over." Yi Hua sat down and said. Wei Chang added, "I want the melon seeds too." Death Mage stood up and wanted to throw the woman who was in his embrace out, but in the end, he was stopped by his Honor's gaze. Yi Hua said faintly, "As an undead, you have to dare to take responsibility for what you have done. Since you have destroyed the other party's chastity, and the other party also came to me to reason with me, I will not be biased towards anyone. From today onwards, you will have to take good care of this woman." "Your Honor." Death Mage really wanted to cry. Why did I end up in such a situation? I can't even protect myself. And I still have to bring a woman along. Are you thinking of disobeying my orders? I don't dare. Lai Gu brought over the hops and melon seeds, and Yi Hua said faintly, "Tell me what happened once." In the following half an hour, Death Mage began his performance. Especially when it came to the climax, he was simply unable to control himself. "Your Honor, this woman is too shameless." She coveted subordinate's appearance, and in front of everyone's eyes, she even said that subordinate secretly kissed her. And now, because of this, she even came to Your Honor and disturbed Your Honor's sleep time. Subordinate blushed with shame. "I hope that Your Honor can retract your orders. This kind of woman is truly not to be trifled with." After finished speaking, Death Mage lowered his head. "Just now, I had already fought for my final chance. If I am still unable to get rid of this woman, then I will just accept my fate." Yi Hua did not say anything, and was currently thinking about another problem. This woman's background is not small. She is actually the sect master of Cloud Sect. I reckon that I will be able to use her in some way in the future. For a woman like this to be compatible with my subordinate's subordinate, just that, for me to make my subordinate use the honey trap, this is truly making things difficult for me. What do you two think? Yi Hua asked Wei Chang and Lai Gu. The two's hearts sunk. It's time for the exam again. I forgot to draw circles in the past. After a long while, Wei Chang said solemnly, "Your Honor, subordinate feels that it is better to destroy a temple than to destroy a marriage. Since this sect master has taken a fancy to my subordinate, as the sect master, as the sect master, should be happy." Hearing what Wei Chang said, Lai Gu's eyes shone. "Your Honor, what gluttonous monster said is extremely true. This is a love that transcends races." However, when Lai Gu finished speaking, the three went into a daze. Soon after, they looked towards Death Mage's face, then looked towards Sun Fang, who was in Death Mage's embrace. This fellow actually used his real body to make a human woman fall in love with him. And furthermore, the human woman is a beautiful female sect master. This female sect master's taste is rather unique. If Yi Hua and the others were to reveal their real bodies, I reckon that other people would probably faint from fright. Yi Hua coughed lightly. He did not want to lecture his two subordinates and said, "It is already quite late. This matter is decided. All of you can go back to your places now." After finished speaking, Yi Hua turned around and went upstairs. "My little brother's woman has already come to look for me, and my little brother's woman is even more so, and yet, my woman is acting like that." Chapter 139. Death Mage hugged onto Sun Fang, who was in his embrace, and he even had the heart to die as he shouted out lightly, "Master! Since His Honor has spoken, you should just treat this human well." After Wei Chang finished speaking, he stepped into the black void. Lai Gu smiled and patted on Death Mage's shoulder. "If you don't want it, you can give it to me." Death Mage was very straightforward as he stretched out both of his hands. Lai Gu was startled. His honor is from the undead race as well, and this undead race sure is straightforward. Brat, it is better for you to keep it for yourself. After finished speaking, Lai Gu disappeared, leaving behind Death Mage, who had a depressed look on his face. Looking at the woman in his arms, the corners of her eyes were still wet. Even though she was drunk, her brows were still tightly knitted. Death Mage let out a heavy sigh. If I knew that it would be like this, I wouldn't have revoked her identity as a female slave. Listening to his honor's words, I still have to treat her well. How is it possible that I don't even have money to play games, and I still have to raise a woman? What kind of joke is this? Death Mage also disappeared from the leisure bar. As for where he went, it was naturally under the heavenly bridge. The only difference was that he had to carry a woman while fishing, and the surrounding vagrants were suffering unspeakably. The next day, Yihua woke up very early in the morning and looked at the weather outside. The weather was warm and sunny. The weather was the most suitable for traveling. When he thought of his meticulous plan, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. After washing up, Yihua woke up Qinya, who was sleeping in his sister-in-law's room. Qin Yutong naturally had to pretend that she had recovered from her illness. This way, Qinya would be able to go to Yihua's room with peace of mind. Qinya had prepared some clothes, and while wearing a big round hat to block the sun, Qinya looked very comfortable. Right now, even if Qinya didn't have any noble clothes on, Qinya was still able to show off her nobility. Yihua was very satisfied with Qinya's change. This is the temperament that his honor's wife should have. Yihua, where are we going? Qinya asked faintly, and her tone was still the same, neither warm nor angry. Yihua said indifferently, you will know once you get there. This guy, he wanted to give me a surprise, but he was still sneaky. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Little sister must have been bribed by you. At this moment, Wei Chang and Lai Gu were already waiting downstairs. Beside them, there were 4 women who were dressed in maid attire, and they were acting as the service personnel for this trip. Among them were Wei Chang's girlfriend, Tang Wei, and Lai Gu's 3 big celebrities, Yi, Wenxia, and Bai Xiaojun. It must be said that Wei Chang and Lai Gu's eyesight was very good. These 4 women could be considered as top-notch beauties, especially after they ate the golden delicate crane. Their appearance became even more beautiful. Looking at his subordinates' women, Yihua couldn't help but nod his head. I will be able to bring them out. As for whether or not they will be able to gain face, that will have to depend on how well they teach them. When Qinya saw these 4 women, she was a bit stupefied. Why are all of them wearing maid attire? All kinds of black silk, all kinds of lace, all kinds of visual allure. Although their expressions were filled with respect, Qinya still felt that it was strange. Even Xiao Tang is among them, and why do those 3 women look so familiar to me? Boss lady boss. The people below shouted in unison. Yihua gladly accepted it, and although Qinya was stupefied, she still accepted it. Those 3 celebrities are my subordinates' women. Yihua added, lest the jealous king beside him took the opportunity to make a fuss. Qinya snorted. Today is a rare opportunity. I and my subordinate have not gone out together for a very long time. As for why I am bringing them out, firstly, they can do odd jobs, and secondly, they also need to go on a date. Yihua said faintly. Qinya didn't believe him. Are all you cultivators like this when you go out? Do you feel that they have become our big light bulb? If you want, we can go to the world of just the 2 of us. Yihua said softly beside Qinya's ear. Towards Yihua's teasing, Qinya pinched Yihua harshly, then rolled her eyes at Yihua and walked forward. Yihua laughed lightly. Women, they always say one thing but mean another. The 4 women who were acting as maids immediately took over the small box from Qinya's hands, and their expressions were incomparably respectful. Yihua, Wei Chang, and Lai Gu walked at the back. Are there any abnormalities with your women? Yihua asked faintly. Your Honor, don't worry, they are able to fight, defend, and deal damage. Lai Gu laughed. Wei Chang laughed lightly. Right now, Xiao Tang is still not proficient in controlling her strength. Subordinate will let her practice diligently in the future. The 2 of you have done well. In the future, there will definitely be more people that will be needed. For now, train properly. Yes. Yes. Outside of the bar, 2 top-end Kians were parked. This time, Qingya finally did not have to be the chauffeur and sat at the back with Yi Hua. Wei Chang was the chauffeur, Lai Gu sat at the front passenger seat, and the four mates sat in the second car. Yi Hua didn't say where they were going, but Wei Chang knew where they were going. Playing was a part of it, causing trouble was also a part of it, and killing was also a part of it. After Lai Gu got onto the car, he sent a message to his women, telling them to go and clear the bar first, to prevent anyone from disturbing his honor's mood. After receiving the message, Lai Gu said to Wen Xia, who was beside him, "Gu Gu told us to go and clear the bar first." Wen Xia was the only one who had short hair out of the four women. She was filled with a heroic spirit, and even gave people a kind of feeling of handsomeness. Of course, it was the kind of handsomeness that belonged to women, and her figure belonged to the fiery type. Lai Gu was very fond of this type. The one who was sitting behind Wen Xia was called Bai Xiaojun. She belonged to the cute type of beauty. Her oval face looked very comfortable, and her bashful look couldn't help but make people feel tender towards her. As for Tang Wei, there was no need to talk about her. She belonged to the pure type of girl. Perhaps it was because she wasn't familiar with Lai Gu, or perhaps it was because she saw the three celebrities. She was a bit nervous. Clear the bar. A trace of an evil smile appeared on the corner of Wen Xia's mouth as she stepped on the accelerator, and like an arrow that left the bow, the top-end Qian shot out. Tang Wei immediately grabbed onto the handle of the car. I feel that they are very ferocious. They are completely different from what I see on television. In the beginning, Tang Wei was actually very nervous. Uncle Wei asked me to come over and act as the boss's waiter, and I felt that it was quite an honor. However, when I thought about how I am the only one coming over, I became a bit nervous, afraid that I would do something wrong. After hearing that there were 3 more celebrities, Tang Wei immediately let out a sigh of relief. When she saw the 3 celebrities that came over this morning, Tang Wei was very surprised. They are actually the popular actresses. I even secretly asked Uncle Wei, and in the end, those 3 actresses are actually Uncle Wei's friends' women. I am about to get dizzy. However, looking at their expressions, they are even more nervous than me. "Hello, I am Bai Xiaojun. Nice to meet you." Just when Tang Wei was thinking blindly, Bai Xiaojun, who was at the side, took the initiative to greet Tang Wei, and with a blush on her small face, Tang Wei cried out in surprise. Soon after, she held on to Bai Xiaojun's delicate hand and said, "Hello, I am Tang Wei. From what I heard from Gu Gu, you are Uncle Wei's girlfriend." Bai Xiaojun's voice was a bit low. Even if she was talking to a girl, she would still be shy and lower her head. However, it was precisely because of this that Bai Xiaojun gained countless fans in the entertainment circle. Every time a male fan saw that shy look on Bai Xiaojun's face, Bai Xiaojun would instantly earn a few 100 million. Chapter 140. You guys know about this too? Tang Wei also became a bit shy, and a blush slowly climbed onto her neck. Wen Xia, who was driving, stretched out her hand and said coolly, "Wen Xia." Tang Wei immediately held onto her hand. "Hello." She turned her head and smiled sweetly. "Hello Tang Wei, my name is Iran." "Hello." Tang Wei was a bit overwhelmed by the favor, so they are actually very amiable and approachable. "You are thinking too much, isn't it all because of your Wei Chang's woman?" Wen Xia still smiled gently. "Xiao Tang, we are friends in the future. We need to walk around more often." What big sister Iran said is right. Tang Wei was the youngest among the 4, so it was normal for her to address the other 3 as big sister. Bai Xiaojun said weakly, "Tang Wei, are you prepared? We are going to clear the place later." "Do we need to prepare for clearing the place too?" Tang Wei asked innocently. Wen Xia said calmly, "Clearing the place is equivalent to killing." Tang Wei was immediately stupefied, while Bai Xiaojun seemed very shy, but her pair of beautiful eyes were flickering with excitement. Don't think that only Yi Hua was instilling crooked logic into Qingya. Lai Gu was the same as well, and his brainwashing was very successful. However, this time it was a rare opportunity for him to pull all of the women out to train and see the effect. In actuality, Wei Chang also had the same intention. Tang Wei's temperament was still too kind, and this was not a good thing. Coming out today was to let her train her courage. Yi Hua's car drove at a moderate speed, and when Qingya saw the car behind them speeding away, she asked curiously, It is very dangerous for them to drive so fast. Lai Gu smiled. Madam, don't worry, they know what they are doing. What are they in a hurry to do? Isn't it good for them to go together with us? Qingye asked. Madam, they are going over first to prepare. Lai Gu explained carefully. His mood was pretty good. Yihua said faintly, why would there be so many questions? Qingye snorted. Can't I just ask out of curiosity? He really acts like a big boss no matter where he goes. I feel that my mental state is also developing towards this direction. Very quickly they got on the highway. Qingye was very curious where Yihua was going to bring her to play. And as she thought about it, she got a bit sleepy and gradually fell asleep. Yihua took a look at Qingye. Only a sleeping Qingye is capable of making one feel tender affection for her. Seeing that Qingye was slowly falling to one side and was about to touch the door frame, Yihua stretched out his hand and held onto Qingye's forehead, then lightly hugged onto Qingye's shoulder and let Qingye use his shoulder as a pillow. Qingye, who was asleep, pursed her lips and hugged onto Yihua's arm. Because if I don't hug onto something, I will feel that something is missing. Drive it steadily, Yihua said faintly. Wei Chang, who was driving, nodded and controlled the speed at 100. Damn it, it's been a few days, and I can finally hug this stupid woman. Today is really a good day. 2 hours later they got off the highway, entered the village road, and then turned into the mountain road. They drove through the forest for half an hour. If there were people, they would sometimes see flying cars. Not long later, they finally arrived at their destination. At this place, there was a waterfall that wasn't big nor small, and the water droplets that splashed out from the waterfall were as fine as dust and smoke. As the water droplets floated in the air, they formed a mist that covered the forest with a layer of thin veil. At first glance, an extremely beautiful rainbow could even be seen. The water quality of the water here was not something that the water quality in the city could compare to. If one were to look carefully, one would even be able to see fishes swimming at the bottom of the water. Presumably, the meat of the fishes would be delicious and delicious. For maids could be seen to have arrived at the scene a long time ago, and all of the facilities were already prepared. Tents, chairs, dining tables, cooking utensils, food, etc. were currently standing in a row to welcome them. However, just an hour ago, the scene here wasn't this peaceful. 1 hour ago. Big Sister Xia, are we lost? Tang Wei, who was sitting at the back, asked curiously. She opened up her phone and took a look at it, then said, We aren't. Gugu had already come over to take a look. We have arrived. Wen Xia said coldly as she stepped on the accelerator. Tang Wei took a look and immediately cried out in surprise. Big Sister Xia, there is a waterfall in front of us. Quickly stop the car. Amidst Tang Wei's screams, the Qian flew out from the top of the waterfall. Other than Tang Wei, the other 3 women felt that it was very exciting. Bang! The entire car unreasonably landed at the bottom of the waterfall, and Tang Wei had yet to come back to her senses. Bai Ji still smiled. Everyone, prepare yourselves and strive to perform well in front of the boss. Don't make things difficult for Gugu. You are still right, although it is just a simple outing. Gugu said that it is also a part of the boss test. When Xia loosened the seatbelt and took out a mirror to take a look at herself. I better not lose face as a man in front of the boss. Tang Wei was completely stupefied, not understanding what they were talking about. What are you all talking about? Why don't I understand what you all are talking about? Tang Wei asked confusedly. Bai Xiaojin said tenderly. Tang Wei, you will know after we get off the car. While feeling puzzled, Tang Wei got off the car along with the 3 women. Sizing up the surroundings, I feel that it is indeed not bad. This is a good place for camping. For such delicate and beautiful women appeared in the depths of the forest, and furthermore, they were dressed so alluringly. All of them were dressed in black lace-made attire, and their long legs were dressed in black stockings, and the stockings were even the kind that had a net on them. On their feet, they were wearing high heels, and their long legs were vividly displayed. Immediately, countless sounds of saliva being swallowed rang out from the surroundings. Bang! 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 In an instant, countless figures descended from the sky, and the way they appeared was extremely shocking. Wherever they landed, the ground would be stepped on, and from this, it could be seen how valiant they were. Tang Wei was a bit scared as she moved closer to the other 3 women. Around 100 people surrounded the 4 women in the center, and all of these people were dressed in different styles. Some were dressed in ancient style, some were dressed in modern style, and there were even some who wore bell-bottoms. However, the only thing that all of them had in common was their gazes. They wished that they could swallow the 4 women in front of them. A handsome man could be seen flinging his bangs as he walked out with large strides. I am Extreme Wool Pavilion's big disciple, Sun Wei. You all. Who are you all? Yi immediately revealed a delicate and weak look as she hugged onto Wenxia's arm. Not only did this action not make others feel pity for her, Yi even started laughing out loud, and his gaze revealed savagery. Beauties, this place has long been taken over by us. Let's go then. As expected of a celebrity, when they start playing around, it would be great. Sun Wei immediately stopped Yi. Beauties, don't be like this. I have just regained my single status, and I can see that you look pretty good. How about becoming my girlfriend? After saying that, he stretched out his hand, wanting to touch Yi Ran's pretty face. However, before he could even touch her face, he flew into the sky like a cannonball, and even lit up for a moment. Bai Xiaozhen said shyly, I only wanted to give him a kick. I didn't expect that it would turn out like this. The surrounding men sucked in a breath of cold air. A delicate woman had actually kicked an adult man into the air, and this was not an ordinary kick. He flew into the sky and had yet to land. Chapter 141. She still maintained her weak expression and said indifferently, Each of you take one direction. The boss is coming soon, hurry up. When Xia and Bai Xiaozhen nodded, Tang Wei was still panicking. When she appeared again, her slender legs were on top of a man's forehead. The high heels on her feet had pierced through the man's skull. Blood flowed out from the heels. The man's eyes were filled with shock, but he could not help but look down. He immediately felt that he died with grievance. She was actually wearing safety pants. Screams suddenly sounded. The small valley was filled with whales. The clear water turned bright red. Tang Wei looked at the man in front of her with a sinister expression. She continuously retreated until she leaned against the car door. Die. The man raised his butcher knife, as if he had already seen the beauty being cut into 2. Tang Wei was very nervous, but she also knew to resist. She grabbed the man's arm and flung it. Maybe because she used too much strength, she did not throw the man out, but her arm was forcibly torn off. Looking at the arm that was spurting blood, a black mist flashed past Tang Wei's beautiful eyes. The gentleness on her face gradually faded, and was replaced with a fierce look. Kill. This was a completely one-sided situation. There was no possibility of turning the tables, not even letting anyone escape. The method was so cruel that even the heavens had to cover it up, unable to bear to look at it. In a few minutes, there was only one person left out of the few hundred people, and that person did not move at all. He was just a lackey that had just entered the sect, often boasting that he had a strong backing, bullying people in all kinds of ways. Knowing that this time they were going to cause trouble, he became even more terrible. In the end, before the matter even started, it came to them, when had they ever seen this kind of scene, they had only seen it on the television. Quickly come here, there is an honest person here, quickly come and bully him. Bai Xiaozhen waved her pure white willow arms, her whole body was clean, not letting the dirty blood stick to her body. Yi ran when Xia and Tang Wei slowly walked over. The man was already scared to the point of peeing. He knelt on the ground with a plop. I will tell you everything. We are from the north. We are guarding here to ambush. I will tell you everything you want to know. Please don't kill me. She still walked over slowly, looking down at the man kneeling down. This is not important. Killing you is just to let the boss have some peace. Boss? The man slowly raised his head and looked at the woman in front of him. They actually had a boss. They killed so many people just to let the boss have some peace and quiet. Who was their boss? The man suddenly felt an itch on his neck. After the world spun around him, he saw his body kneeling on the ground. Where did my head go? Where did my head go? Why can't I feel the existence of my hands? No. I don't want to die. After dealing with the last one, he opened the trunk again. Let's split up the work. Don't dirty the boss's eyes. That was the situation an hour ago. Get up. Yihua called out lightly. Sob, 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 Yihua sighed helplessly. However, when Qinya let out such a tender moan, Yihua felt his heart itching. Have we arrived? Qinya opened her hazy beautiful eyes, and suddenly discovered that she was currently hugging onto Yihua. Qinya immediately let go of Yihua. Yihua snorted coldly. What, are you going to let go after hugging me enough? It's not like I wanted to hug you on purpose, Qinya said in a low voice, then opened the door and got off the car, not giving Yihua the chance to flip out. A slight smile appeared on Yihua's face. Your Honor, seems like the madam is still unable to escape from your palms. Wei Chang calmed down and said with a slight smile. Yihua snorted lightly. She will never be able to escape from my palms in this lifetime. Lai Gu quickly took out a small notebook and recorded down His Honor's golden words, then tell them to his women. Wouldn't that make them feel extremely touched? Then, just thinking about all kinds of services made me feel extremely happy. After getting off the car, Yihua smelled a familiar smell of blood. Taking a deep breath, I feel great. Boss. The four women shouted out tenderly. Yihua nodded his head and said faintly, You have done well. Thank you for your praise, boss. The four women slightly bowed their bodies and shouted out. Meanwhile, Qinya was currently playing with rocks not far away. Qinya appeared to be indifferent, but she would observe Yihua from time to time. Seeing Qinya's adorable actions, Yihua walked over. Even the boss is praising you all, not bad. Lai Gu walked forward and hooked onto Bai Xiaozhen's chin. Bai Xiaozhen shyly lowered her head. Wenxia, give me a smile. Lai Gu stretched out his hand and slapped onto Bai Xiaozhen's head. Wenxia, who had been cold the entire time, revealed a bashful look. Annoying, haha. While they were whispering sweet nothings to each other, Tang Wei directly threw herself into Wei Chang's embrace. Gently caressing the woman in his arms, Wei Chang said softly, Are you used to it? Yes, it's all right. From an obedient schoolbell, Tang Wei gradually turned into a female-killing god. The three celebrities were also the same. In the past, they did not even dare to think that they would have such a day. Bad guy training school? Do you want to know about it? Yihua walked to Qinya's side and said faintly, You drooled just now again. Qinya took a glance at Yihua's shoulder. There is nothing there, liar. Don't look, I wiped it off. Pay attention to your image. With so many subordinates looking at you, you have to act like a wife. Yihua said, then walked towards Wei Chang and the others. Qinya stomped her feet and threw out a small stone. This scoundrel is actually starting to educate me again. Doesn't he know that we are in a cold war? However, what Yihua said was still reasonable. As a madam, she had to act like a madam and not let her subordinates look down on her. I'll give him some face today. After finished speaking, Qinya's aura changed and she slowly walked over. Yihua said to Wei Chang and Lai Gu, Look, as long as I play a few tricks, she will immediately surrender. Your Honor is wise and resourceful, subordinate admires you. Wei Chang said fearfully. Seems like in the future, if I encounter any relationship problems, I can look for His Honor to resolve them. Your Honor is formidable. Lai Gu was filled with admiration. His Honor is becoming more and more intelligent. He is no longer as simple-minded as he was in the past. In order to show his authority, Yihua waved his hand towards Qinya. Qinya pouted her mouth, then walked over. Yihua felt very comfortable in his heart. This is just the beginning, that's all. Of course, a barbecue was necessary for camping. All of these things have already been prepared. As the four maids for today, their mission was to take care of everyone's food and drinks. Yihua sat at the side of the water and started fishing. Accompanying him was naturally Wei Chang and Lai Gu. Wei Chang was still all right, but Lai Gu had an impatient look on his face. Because not a single fish took the bait, he was about to explode from anger. Qinya lay on the bench and would occasionally peel some fruits for Yihua. This could be counted as giving Yihua a bit of face to prevent him from throwing a tantrum. Chapter 142. Lai Gu swung his fishing rod again. Boss, my fish isn't coming up. Is it because the bait has expired? You are the one that has expired. Wei Chang teased. Although Qinya didn't say anything, she was still listening at the side. She felt that sometimes, They were like superior and subordinate, and sometimes they were like friends, and Yihua played the leading role in the middle. She felt that this man had a whole body of secrets that he just didn't want to tell her. A cultivator actually opened a bar in a remote alley, and his subordinates were even working as security guards in the bar. There was even a strange dog at that time, and who knows where it went right now. I reckon that it was stewed by someone. But their actions are too strange? Could it be that Yihua is hiding from some enemy, and that's why he is hiding like this? No matter if it is television or novels, they all say that the weak are prey to the strong in the cultivation world. If Yihua is really hiding from his enemy, what should I do? Why don't I go abroad together, and if it really doesn't work, I can just hide in the mountains. This way Yihua's enemy won't be able to find him. Qinya instantly planned out countless escape plans in her mind. Her originally good mood was completely gone, and her heart was filled with worry. Looking at the ordinary Yihua, that relaxed look of his, is he faking it for me to see? This scoundrel is really hiding everything from me. Doesn't he know that we are already husband and wife? If there are difficulties, we should face them together. What a male chauvinist. Although I don't have any abilities, at least my brain is enough, and I am also very rich. I definitely have enough funds to escape, and I definitely won't starve. Yihua, who was fishing, completely didn't know what Qinya was thinking in her little head. If he knew, he would definitely smack her head. Am I the kind of person who is hiding from my enemy? If I really want to bring out my enemy, it would be those overlords. It's good to find them. I don't have to look for them myself. Yihua stretched out his hand. Qinya picked up the orange and placed it in Yihua's hand, then snorted and looked at the other side. Looking at Qinya's angry look, Yihua couldn't understand. The speed at which this woman's face changes is faster than flipping a book. Boss, looking at the situation, I'm afraid that it will break out from the ground tonight. Wei Chong placed the fish that he caught into the bucket and said lightly. Yihua nodded his head. He didn't put it in his heart at all. Lai Gu didn't have the mood to fish at all and said softly, Boss, let me go and do something. If your balls are in pain, then go and find your woman. Yihua silently lit up a stick of cigarette. Understood. Lai Gu immediately put down the fishing rod in his hand, then turned around and walked towards his woman. After that, he pulled Wen Xia, who had a bashful look, and ran into the forest. Meanwhile, Tang Wei, who was chopping vegetables, had a look of curiosity on her face. Qinya snorted coldly. What kind of subordinate will have what kind of boss? Since subordinates are frivolous by nature, the boss will definitely not be any better. Thinking back to the time when I met Yihua just now, he was flirting with a good girl. Boss, are we really not going to do anything this time? Wei Chong asked curiously. Yihua took a puff of his cigarette and stared at the water. Do you still remember the question that I asked you yesterday? Problem. That subordinate of yours. Yihua reminded. Wei Chong recalled what his honor meant, but he still didn't understand what his honor meant. Your subordinate is slow-witted. Flicking away the cigarette ash, Yihua said calmly, according to the words of the humans, we are not part of their circle. However, it is different now, we have their people. Boss, you are talking about that woman? Wei Chang's eyes lit up. If that woman didn't appear, the two of you would have gone to play today. However, I have changed my mind. Wei Chang still didn't quite understand and was very confused. Yihua continued. Sometimes humans will be unscrupulous in order to achieve their goals. Even if it means ruining a woman's innocence and making her wish that she was dead, if I were to make use of that woman, I would be able to pick up a butcher's knife and kill my own kind. How interesting would that be? Wei Chang finally understood and said in submission, Boss is brilliant. Remember back then, how many humans were abandoned by their companions? If I had taken them in back then, they would have become a sharp sword. However, it is a pity that back then, I was too foolish, and the consequences were even more devastating. Speaking up to here, Yihua's voice became gloomy. Your Honor, we are also at fault. Don't push all of the responsibility onto yourselves. As your boss, not being able to look at the big picture is a failure. Yihua let out a breath. After being a human for 5 years, only then did I understand what is called looking at the big picture. Thinking back to everything that happened in the past, I feel that I am just like a child playing house, very childish. Killing countless people is nothing more than silently killing people. Those Supremes had indeed taught him a lesson. Wei Chang, this world is not that simple. Just treat it as a practice, so that in the future, you will be able to continue conquering the world with me. Subordinate understands. A trace of bloodthirstiness flashed past Wei Chang's eyes, and a scene had already appeared in his mind. His honor was standing in the center position, and behind him were the 7 sins from back then, and beneath his feet were all human skeletons. Have your little skeleton make preparations. Whether or not that female sect leader will be able to change sides will depend on him. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette but that was in his hand, then drew an arc in the air and landed on the surface of the water. Yes. Qinya pursed her sexy cherry lips. These two fellows are actually whispering to each other, and acting so sneakily. They definitely don't have any good intentions. What kind of words can't be said in front of me? This is infuriating. Boss, the meat is already roasted. Tang Wei shouted out. Qinya, go and bring the meat over. Yi Hua shouted out. Not going. Yo, watch how I am going to take care of you tonight. Unexpectedly, Qinya went back into the tent while panting with rage. Yi Hua stood up and decided that there was no need to wait until night time. I am going to go and teach her a lesson right now on how to be a wife. The 3 maids first looked at the lady boss who went back into the tent, then looked at the boss who went back into the tent. Immediately, they thought of something and their faces became slightly red. The relationship between the boss and the lady boss sure is good. Tang Wei secretly took a look at Uncle Wei, and upon discovering that Uncle Wei was also looking at her, Tang Wei immediately lowered her head. There are only 3 tents today. I definitely have to be together with Uncle Wei. Upon thinking about this, Tang Wei's heart started thumping. Seeing Tang Wei's shy look, and the way she dressed up today, Wei Chang's gradually aging heart slowly recovered. However, before that, I still have to complete the task that His Honor had given me. Death Mage. Wei Chang did not summon Death Mage. Rather, he was merely sending a message over a long distance. Death Mage. Wei Chang called out once again. Why is there no response? Death Mage. Cough, 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 Master. You woman, don't come over. Master, sorry, please wait a moment. Death Mage's tone was very panicked. Wei Chang let out a breath. After quite a while, Death Mage replied. Master, I have knocked that woman unconscious. No one will disturb our conversation anymore. And, who allowed you to knock her unconscious? Wei Chang was puzzled and soon after he was greatly startled. Master? His Honor gave you a new task. Wei Chang said gravely. Death Mage's eyes flickered with red light. His Honor finally gave me a task. It is definitely that kind of bloody and violent task. Subordinate will not hesitate to risk my life. Very good. His Honor's task is to make that human woman fall madly in love with you. Wei Chang felt that this was exactly what His Honor meant. Qinya lowered her head and said softly, I don't know. Admit your mistake. Do you believe that I won't smack your butt into mush? Yi Hua said fiercely, and his hand was already raised high into the air. Qinya was startled, then immediately became terrified. I was wrong. Why are you so petty? Didn't I just spank your butt once? You have already spanked me so many times. Yi Hua laughed in his heart. Qinya, how can you be a match for me? While hugging onto the woman in his embrace, Yi Hua said faintly, Do you know that you were wrong for the past few days? He raised his hand. I was wrong. Yi Hua was very satisfied. Do you dare to do it again next time? Qinya bit onto her lips. This is also because I don't have the strength, otherwise, I would have spanked your butt until it becomes swollen. I don't dare to do it again. Qinya said pitifully. After pausing for a moment, Yi Hua asked gravely, Doll, how did you come here? Where did you put my doll? Upon thinking about this matter, Qinya sent her little fist towards Yi Hua. I burned it. Doll. Even if you burn one of me, there are still thousands and thousands of me. Qinya said petulantly. What are you doing? It's free, it's very cute. It deserves to die for sleeping with my woman. Go to hell. Qinya was amused by Yi Hua, as expected of a jealous king in the cultivation world. However, Qinya liked this kind of Yi Hua. Within being overbearing, there was a trace of doting, just like those overbearing CEOs that I read when I was in school. Are we going to quarrel again next time? Yi Hua asked. Not quarrel anymore. What if we quarrel? It's all my fault. What if it's all my fault? Then it's definitely my fault first. Yi Hua really wanted to record these words down. Then flaunt it once and see how I, the supreme overlord, teach women. I wonder where those men who are afraid of their wives come from. Without any effort, Qinya admitted defeat. However, in Qinya's heart, it was Yi Hua who admitted defeat first, and I gave him face and gave him a way out. Suddenly, Yi Hua pressed Qinya down onto his body. Qinya looked at Yi Hua dumbfoundedly. Meanwhile, Yi Hua couldn't help but kiss onto Qinya, expressing that he had wanted to kiss her for a long time. This woman is making me more and more infatuated with her. After a long time, the two separated from each other, and Qinya said coquettishly, You liar. Liar? Feign ignorance. I don't know who said it, but I won't touch the same woman twice. Qinya imitated Yi Hua's tone, and said weirdly. Yi Hua went into a slight daze, then said faintly, I will lie to whoever I want to lie to. Shameless. No credibility. Big liar. However, right now, not only was Yi Hua enjoying the kiss, he even stretched his hand onto Qinya's body. This caused Qinya to immediately push Yi Hua away, then ran out with a red face. Looking at Qinya who ran away, Yi Hua pursed his lips. We are already an old couple, why are you still being shy? However, when the people outside saw the lady boss running out with a red face, she had a look of as expected on her face. Wei Cheng's reverence towards his honor rose to another level. However, Lai Gu had yet to return. At the same time, there was another woman who was about to go crazy. At an old residential area in Long'an City, this place was basically rented out to the public. After Sun Fong came down from the mountain, she conveniently stayed at this place. Right now, Sun Fong was sitting on the sofa with a long sword in her hand. Looking at Death Mage who was playing games, she gasped for breath. Don't misunderstand, I am tired from fighting. Even now, I still remember that when I woke up in the morning, I saw that face the moment I opened my eyes. Without saying anything, I immediately started fighting, and in the end, I discovered that my spiritual energy was sealed. For the sake of revenge, I followed him wherever he went. I used all kinds of sneak attacks, all kinds of stabs, and even poisoned him with arsenic. In the end, the skeleton was immune to all kinds of poisons, his bones were extremely hard, and even his shoulders were sore. Furthermore, for the sake of revenge, I didn't hesitate to let him stay at this place. How could I possibly sleep under the bridge like him? Furthermore, for the sake of making him not leave and taking the opportunity to take revenge, I even topped up my money to play games, and even bought cigars for him. This enemy of mine even clamored that if I don't top up my money, I will leave. Bayubiubiu. Hearing the sound of fishing, Sun Fong powerlessly leaned onto the sofa. My enemy is right in front of me, yet I am actually powerless to do anything. Just how am I supposed to kill this skeleton? Can I stew it? Waiting online. Chapter 144. GGG, Imperial Translation. It's time to top up. Death Mage picked up his phone and knocked on the screen. On the screen, it showed that his balance was not enough. Sun Fong was about to collapse. 2 hours ago, she had given him 500 yuan. Are you eating money? It's gone so quickly. He did not bring much money with him when he left the sect this time. He only had a few thousand yuan on him because he was bent on revenge. Seeing that the woman on the sofa did not have any reaction, Death Mage started typing on his phone. If you're not going to top up, I'm leaving. A blatant threat. So many young geniuses have come up the mountain to ask for her hand in marriage, but this sect leader has never bothered with them. But now, I'm asking a skeleton to stay. This is retribution. Sun Fong threw the phone on the table and coldly shouted, Charge. Death Mage was not courteous at all, and he immediately started transferring the money to the bank. His actions were done in one go, and it seemed like he had done this many times before. On the other hand, Sun Fong was very angry. Picking up her own sword, she fiercely chopped towards Death Mage's head until the web between her thumb and forefinger started bleeding. However, the black robe that Death Mage was wearing was not even cut open. Seeing that Death Mage had returned the phone to her, Sun Fong took it over. However, when he saw the balance on the card, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. 1 yuan. Sun Fong immediately snatched over Death Mage's phone, only to see that there were more than 10 gold coins, and he actually rushed all of them. Sun Fong covered her forehead and slumped weakly on the sofa. Then, she raised her sword and slashed again. As she slashed, she cursed. "You bastard, I'll chop you to death. How dare you use my money to play games? You don't want to eat, but I still want to eat. I'll hack you to death." Aha! Biu. Sun Fong was speechless. Looking at the cigars on the table, Sun Fong's gaze hardened. She took one out, walked into the kitchen, and took out a blue bottle from her backpack. Ecstasy powder. This poison was in the form of powder and could be added to drinking water. It could also be ignited and floated in the air. It was an essential medicine for killing and robbing people. Furthermore, it was extremely precious. Sun Fong did not want to waste it, but she had no other choice. He added the ecstasy powder into the cigar. "Suck you to death, you bastard." After she was done, Sun Fong took a deep breath and walked out of the kitchen. Looking at Death Mage, who was playing the game with a serious expression, Yu Yang slowly walked over and stretched out the cigar in his hand. Without even looking at Sun Fong, Death Mage took the cigar and placed it on his mouth. Seeing that Death Mage did not have the intention to start a fire, Sun Fong let out a breath and calmed herself down. Picking up the lighter, Yu Yang personally lit the fire for Death Mage. The southern girl was actually reduced to lighting a fire for a skeleton. She really wanted to die. But he was about to die. Death Mage took a deep breath. Smoke had yet to come out from his mouth, but his body was already smoking. Sun Fong's gaze congealed. Looking at the drifting smoke, she seemed to have thought of something, and immediately covered her nose and ran towards the window. Fiercely opening the window, Sun Fong took a deep breath. She was so angry that she became muddle-headed. GGG. Imperial translation. How fragrant. Cough, cough, cough. Sun Fong leaned against the window and coughed violently. She even coughed up blood. Death Mage played around and smoked whatever he wanted to, but he was completely fine. On the other hand, Death Mage himself was poisoned. Before he could take his revenge, he would die in front of his enemy. Most importantly, he had poisoned himself to death. Heavens! What did I, Sun Fong, do wrong to make you treat me like this? Death Mage took a look at the woman who was leaning against the window and thought to himself, "This woman is too stingy. Didn't I just use a few coins from you?" Just because of this, he wanted to commit suicide. Sun Fong turned around and glared at Death Mage. "Even if I'm going to die, I'm going to turn into a ghost and kill him." Death Mage sighed powerlessly, then shot out a black fog from his bony finger into Sun Fong's body. Sun Fong laughed coldly. "You don't need to do anything. This sect leader is going to die too. However, I won't let you off in this lifetime." At the moment of death, Sun Fong suddenly felt that her breathing was smooth. Her feet were no longer numb, and her hands were no longer sore. She could climb several floors in one breath. Why? Why must even death be exploited? Sun Fong threw herself on the sofa and cried loudly, looking so wronged and helpless. Biu. There was nothing more important than fishing in this world. Beside the waterfall, Lai Gu had yet to return. Qingya's little face was blushing red as she threw the small stones, scaring the little fishes underwater to the point that they started swimming in all directions. This woman is so terrifying. Sneaking a glance at Yi Hua, she discovered that Yi Hua was also looking at her, and her heart started beating wildly. This scoundrel, everything that he said in the past were all lies, and right now, he actually dares to make a move on me, damn scoundrel. That's right. I forgot to ask him about that matter. No, I still have to ask him clearly. If it really doesn't work, I'll just run. With a blushing face, Qingya pulled Yi Hua into the tent again. The few people outside the tent went into a daze. The lady boss's desire is really not satisfied. Seeing that Qingya was so anxious, Yihua smiled lightly. What? It is not even nighttime yet, and you are already impatient? Impatient, my ass, let me ask you something. Qinya said solemnly. Come into my embrace first. Can you be a bit more serious? I like the feeling of hugging you. Qinya went into a daze. Did this man become enlightened recently? He knows how to make me happy now. However, being able to hear what Yihua said, Qinya still felt sweet in her heart. She shifted her body and leaned into Yihua's embrace. Meanwhile, Yihua lightly hugged the woman in his embrace and caressed her beautiful hair, feeling very comfortable. Didn't you say that you are going to take wedding photos? You choose a date. Yihua said faintly. Qinya smiled. Her smile was exceptionally beautiful, and said tenderly, Then you better not regret it. Do I look like someone who will regret it? Bragging again. Yihua stretched out his hand and flicked Qinya's forehead. Why did you hit me again? I like it. Qinya rubbed onto her forehead and said earnestly, I have something to ask you. Speak. Are you being chased? Qinya sat up and looked at Yihua nervously. Meanwhile, Yihua was also stupefied by Qinya's question. I, the Supreme Overlord, am being chased? What a huge joke. However, looking at Qinya's nervous expression, Yihua decided to tease this foolish woman. Suddenly, Yihua's expression became downcast. Looking at Yihua's expression, Qinya knew that she guessed correctly. Yihua, don't scare me. Yihua let out a heavy sigh. Qinya, it is still not too late for you to leave now. Hearing what Yihua said, Qinya's beautiful eyes immediately turned red, and she hugged onto Yihua's waist. I don't want to. Jijiji. I, the Supreme Overlord, am able to see through your heart with just a little bit of tricks. Properly give birth to the child. Yihua said gravely. Qinya sobbed uncontrollably. Yihua, let's run. I will go and sell the company. That money is more than enough for us to use. Yihua was slightly startled. I know that the company is very important to Qinya, and right now, Qinya is actually willing to sell the company for me. Lightly caressing onto the foolish woman in his embrace, Yihua said faintly, Where are we going then? Anywhere is fine. Chapter 145. Qinya was anxious. Then what should we do? Let's call the police. No, it's completely useless. Looking at Qinya's expression, Yihua finally couldn't help but laugh. Qinya went into a daze for a moment, then said fiercely, Are you playing with me? You are the one who is too stupid. It's already good enough that I don't chase after others. I was so worried about you just now, and you still dare to tease me, Yihua. I will fight it out with you. Humph, come at me. Immediately, the tent began to shake violently. The people outside were all stupefied. This is too passionate, right? However, Lai Gu still hasn't returned at this very moment. At a place 10 kilometers away from the waterfall, there was a place surrounded by green trees. Birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. It was a pretty good utopia, but the precondition was that there was no one around. Although it looked like there was no one around, if one were to carefully sense it, the surroundings were filled with people, and they were just using a special technique to conceal themselves. In the cave at the side, a few big shots were gathered together. Their expressions were stern, and they were discussing something. That's right. They are the people from the north, and they are here to snatch something. Among them, there was an old face, Tang Wushuang. What was worth noting was that beside Tang Wushuang, there was a handsome man who had an imposing appearance, and he faintly gave off the aura of a person in a high position. He was the northern hidden aristocratic family, Yi Shao. Everyone present was very respectful towards him, and they didn't dare to offend him. The other three people were from sects with strength in the north. Supreme Intent Pavilion Master, Eichi Feng Sumuru Lane Master, Shu Zhenhai Phoenix King Pavilion Master. Mankai. Although these powers weren't the full strength of the north, they were still a sharp sword that pierced the enemy's heart at the crucial moment. Yi family head, since you are here this time, I reckon that you will be able to get twice the result with half the effort. Supreme Intent Pavilion Master He Feng said with a smile. This person was rather skinny, and he looked a bit wretched. Yi Shao swept his gaze across everyone and said, I am here because of Brother Tang's invitation. A single sentence caused the three big shots to hold back. Hidden aristocratic families are indeed awesome, aren't they? They still want to keep the ancient godly item for themselves, but they are too embarrassed to show themselves. If the other hidden aristocratic families were to find out, they would incur the wrath of the public and be attacked by the public. Big brother Yi, I am afraid. Tang Wushuang cupped his hands and said with a smile. To be able to invite Yi Xiao, it could be said that Tang Wushuang had put in a lot of effort, and the price he had to pay was to rely on Yi clan in the future. However, as long as he could obtain an ancient godly item, who could tell what would happen in the future? Yi Xiao patted on Tang Wushuang's shoulder. When the time comes, just leave the opponent's experts to me. As for the ancient godly item, you must definitely get your hands on it. We can't let the Southerners take it. Don't worry, big brother Yi. I will do my best. The owner of Sumeru Lane, Xu Zhenhai, was a big fatty. His face was oily and shiny, and he looked like a pig. This was the most appropriate description. To be on the safe side, I've also called for backup. Xu Zhenhai clapped his hands. Yi Xiao saw a black figure walk in from outside the cave, and an oppressive feeling assaulted him. He could not help but frown, and two words appeared in his mind. An expert. This person was wearing a black cloak. That's right. He was the man from the arcade. The Phoenix King Pavilion Master smiled. Everyone sure is cautious. Yi Xiao's expression quickly darkened. Let me introduce. Xu Zhenhai's chin trembled, and his pair of eyes were about to sink into his flesh. The cloaked man snorted. No need, I am called Emperor Tsang. Such arrogant words. Yi Xiao's eyes narrowed. I hate this kind of man who likes to act cool the most. To think that he would even dare to act cool in front of me, especially when his name has the word emperor in it. Emperor Tsang's pitch-black eyes immediately looked towards Yi Xiao. Yi Xiao snorted. If you want to play, I will play with you. They looked at each other. Don't look down on this kind of looking at each other. There was a lot to pay attention to, because when the two of them were releasing their aura, the one who was weaker would definitely move his gaze first. However, 1 minute later, the two of them seemed to be evenly matched. If they were to continue competing, it might cause a commotion, and it wouldn't be good if they were discovered by others. The two of them seemed to have come to an agreement, and they retracted their gaze at the same time. Emperor Tsang didn't expect that these people would be able to invite such external help. The strength of the external help is not bad, but it will disrupt my plans. Brother Tang, since it's like this, I will be leaving first. Yi Xiao said faintly, then turned around and left. In actuality, coming here this time was a very big risk. If the other aristocratic families were to find out about this, the consequences would be unthinkable. Right now, I just happen to have an excuse to leave, just that I lack the strength of Tang family. Forget it, compared to Tang family's vote, Yi family itself is the most important. Big brother Yi. Tang Wushuang didn't want Yi Xiao to leave just like that. With Yi Xiao around, the chances of me snatching the ancient godly item would be higher. If Yi Xiao was determined to leave, no one would be able to make him stay. On the other hand, Xu Zhenhai was smiling to the point that his eyes couldn't be seen. With Yi Xiao leaving, things will be much easier to deal with. Tang Wushuang's expression was extremely bad. I won't let them take advantage of me. After snorting coldly, Tang Wushuang left as well. Before the battle even started, two of the North's great generals had already left. This could only mean that they weren't united, or that it was because of Emperor Tsang's arrival. Everyone, let's talk about the plan. Emperor Tsang looked at the three people in front of him, and said with a smile. On the surface, I was invited over by Xu Zhenhai, but in private, I have already reached an agreement with Yifeng and Man Kai, just that they didn't know about it. Especially this fatty, the other two are much smarter than you. Man Kai kept his smile and said gravely. This time, there is only us from the north, the others did not make a move. After all, almost all of the South's powers are here, and the South's aristocratic families might even be secretly protecting us, not to mention those mysterious existences from the South. Last time, we let Xiaoyi take advantage of us. This time, when we went to invite him over, he went into closed-door training. Xu Zhenhai snorted coldly. Yifeng shook his sleeves. He already has a Xianyuan sword. If he were to come and snatch the ancient godly item from us, then he would be the one who doesn't know what's good for him. Emperor Tsong didn't say anything and closed his eyes to listen. After a long while, Emperor Tsong slowly said, "When the ancient godly item is unearthed, the South will definitely be the first to snatch the ancient godly item." Xu Zhenhai laughed loudly. What Emperor Tsong said is right. When the ancient godly item is unearthed, the South will definitely be the first to snatch the ancient godly item. He Feng and Man Kai laughed but didn't say anything. You are still counting the money after being sold. Looking at the three idiots, Emperor Tsong revealed out a trace of an evil smile. Report. A disciple from Extreme Wool Pavilion could be seen running over quickly. Pavilion Master, we can't get in touch with a team that was arranged 10 miles away. He Feng's gaze became serious. I will go and take a look. Wait. Emperor Tsong said. He Feng looked at Emperor Tsong suspiciously. The war is imminent. Don't create unnecessary problems. If we were to fall into the enemy's trap, it would be bad. Just send someone over to take a look. He Feng heaved a sigh of relief, then immediately gave the order. Thinking about it, he felt a lingering fear. If they had gone over rashly just now and fallen into the enemy's trap, then it would be over. Chapter 146. Beside the waterfall. Lai Gu had not returned yet. Yi Hua and Qinya, who was flushed red, walked out of the tent together. Qinya covered her pretty face with her hands, and she almost didn't have the face to see anyone. Didn't I just leave you hanging for a few days? How can there be such a vengeful person who is so aggressive? Your figure is getting better and better. Yi Hua said with a smile, then went back to fishing. Towards this kind of teasing, what else could Qinya do? I can only hope that the heavens will send down divine power to smack Yi Hua's, but and let him know how formidable I am. Looking at the smile on his honor's face, Wei Chong felt very happy as well. His honor is becoming more and more like a human. Congratulations on your honor regaining your wife's heart. Easy. Yi Hua picked up the fishing rod, indicating that he would be able to easily catch Qinya. What do you mean by easy? Qinya walked over and questioned Wei Chong. Wei Chong immediately turned his head around, expressing that he did not know anything. Yi Hua tossed out his fishing rod and snorted. I said that fishing is easy. Qinya took a look at the bucket beside Yi Hua. It was really a piece of cake. I don't believe that no fish will take the bait. Not only was Lai Gu unable to catch any fishes, Yi Hua, who was his honor, was also the same. However, Yi Hua was still able to sit still. Looking at Wei Chong, there were countless small fishes and a few big fishes. Give me the fishing rod. Qinya shouted out. The people at the back immediately sent fishing rods. He skillfully hooked up the bait and cast the fishing rod. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen me fishing before? Qinya rolled her eyes at Yi Hua. Bibi. Let's compete then. What are we betting on? Qinya was in a good mood and said tenderly. Speak. That's good. The loser has to buy breakfast for a week. Qinya raised her chin and said confidently. All right. This stupid woman still wants to win? Doesn't she know that if I, the Supreme Overlord, want to win is actually very simple? All I have to do is to slightly move my hands and feet. The corner of Wei Chang's mouth rose. His honor is even going to cheat in a bet with the madam, so he will definitely win. No, wait. He could cheat in his bet with Tang Bingyao and easily win the prize. His honor is truly brilliant. Every single action of his honor is able to benefit me greatly, and every single word of his honor contains all kinds of profound principles. His honor is becoming more and more powerful. After a long while. I'm not fishing anymore. You cheated. Qinya snorted. A loss is a loss. Yi Hua said faintly. Qinya said petulantly. Next time when you cheat, can you not be so exaggerated? You have to understand balance. Equilibrium? That's right. Look at the inside of your bucket. You have been fishing for the entire morning and there is still not a single fish in your bucket. On the other hand, after fishing with me for half an hour, my bucket was completely filled. This cheating is way too obvious. If you were to control the number of fish that we have together, in the end, you would be able to win with a small advantage. At that time, No one would know that you were cheating. You are so stupid. Qingye stretched out her finger and poked Yihua's forehead. Logically speaking, Yihua would definitely fly into a rage. However, he didn't because Yihua had figured out a problem. This problem had even appeared in the 7 deadly sins in the past, and after Qingye explained it to him, Yihua immediately understood the problem. Leveling was the work of a boorish man. A wise man could control a boorish man. Yihua stretched out his hand and pinched onto Qingye's face. All right, I will buy it for you. Humph humph, this is more like it. Quickly remove your spell. I still want to fish. Qingye laughed tenderly. I feel that Yihua's temper is much better right now. After a long while, Yihua said faintly, a certain someone's ability to act cool has not changed at all. You must have cheated again. Then what is the reason for me to cheat? Yihua lit up a cigarette and asked. Qingye pouted her mouth. Isn't it because you want to see me make a fool of myself? I'm not that bored. Yihua's index finger slightly moved, and the shoal of fishes under the water began swimming freely again. Alright, Yihua, I'm just that bored. Wei Chong, who was at the side, memorized every single action of his honor. The more he thought about it, the more astonished he became. This is too profound. I feel that I and Xiao Tang will be able to do that very soon. Boss, I am back. Lai Gu could be seen carrying Wen Xia, who was unconscious, and walking out from the forest at the side. After placing Wen Xia into his tent, Lai Gu ran over to fish happily. After sitting for a while, Lai Gu felt that the atmosphere wasn't right and asked puzzledly, what's wrong? How many hours have you been gone for? Wei Chong asked. Not that long, just a few hours. Lai Gu said indifferently. Seems like today can be considered to be rather short. Yihua turned his head around and looked towards Qingye. Qingye immediately knew what Yihua was thinking about, and she immediately punched towards Yihua. Bai Xiaozhen walked over to the tent and checked on Wen Xia's injuries. Bai Xiaozhen and Tang Wei continued to take care of the food. Xiao Tang, you take care of this place first, I will be back very soon. Yihua said gravely. All right, Sister Iran. After saying that, Yihua disappeared, because she felt that there were some small fries that came over to disturb the boss's rest. A few minutes later, Yihua came back, and not even a strand of his hair floated out. Yihua and the others naturally felt that Yihua came back, and he said to Lai Gu and Wei Chong, both of you did well. Thank you for your praise, boss. Thank you for your praise, boss. Qingye was confused. I don't understand what they are talking about. Is this a code word? The sky gradually darkened, and everyone sat on the chairs and began enjoying the delicacies. Meanwhile, Yihua stood up and raised his wine cup. Everyone didn't dare to be negligent, and immediately stood up. Of course, this included the 4 maids as well. Among them, Wen Xia was extremely shy. The redness on her face had yet to fade away. Yihua said faintly, it has been a long time since I came out. I am very happy this time, cheers. Boss being happy is our happiness. Other than Qingye, everyone shouted out in unison. This made Qingye feel like she was an outsider. After sitting down, Yihua said to Qingye, weren't you curious about the so-called cultivation world? Today, I will let you take a look. Without waiting for Qingye to reply, Yihua waved his hand, and a light blue halo appeared above the dining table. Just like a holographic image, many people appeared in the holographic image, and every single one of them had an excited expression on their face. Yihua said faintly, everyone, let's eat while watching. Qingye stared at the holographic image without blinking, completely unable to care about eating. Yihua didn't stop her. It is time for Qingye to come into contact with the cultivation world. However, I have to do it slowly. I'm afraid that she won't be able to accept it. However, other than Qingye, Tang Wei was also attracted by the holographic image. Those 3 celebrities were still alright, they were eating while watching. As for Yihua, Wei Chong and Lai Gu, they didn't really care about the holographic image. Perhaps, the 3 of them would only take a look at the holographic image when the little skeleton appears. At a place that was 20 kilometers away from where Yihua was, a huge mountain was basically flattened, and there were all kinds of excavators placed around the mountain. At the center of the mountain, there was a hole that had a diameter of 20 meters, and the hole was connected to the underground. Standing at the side of the hole were Wang Debao, Zhou Xinran, Ji Anyan, Guang Tianlu, Hai Daisy, Che Zhishuan Yang Yi Gezheng, and Cloud Sect's new sect master, Sun Yi. She was Sun Fang's junior sister. What they wanted was only the ancient godly item, and they didn't have any thoughts about those treasures. It's out! It's out! It's out! The people inside the hole could be heard letting out excited cheers, and at this moment, everyone's heart was in their throats. What is the ancient godly item that appeared this time? Sword? Armor? And it's even an artifact. Chapter 147. Long and City's wealthy merchant Yusi hurriedly ran over and said, Alliance Master Hai, what do you think? Yusi, take the treasures and leave. Hai Daisy's gaze was fixed on the white jade coffin. As long as he could obtain this ancient godly item, the special ability world would no longer need to be afraid of the cultivation world. Hai Daisy could almost see the rise of the Esper world. Yusi and a few other rich merchants immediately left. There was going to be a fight soon, so it was better for ordinary people to leave as soon as possible. The ordinary people quickly retreated, but at this time, countless people appeared in the air and on the ground. They stood behind their leaders, and tens of thousands of people surrounded the white jade coffin. A great battle was about to break out. Wang Debao stood out and said with a smile, How are we going to split this ancient godly item? Of course not. Zhou Xian Ran of the Zhou family said calmly. The pavilion master of Traceless Pavilion, Gai Zheng, laughed out loud. How about rock, paper, scissors? I'm quite knowledgeable about it. Haha, childish. I know a new way to play fight the landlord. Why don't we have a showdown to prevent blood from flowing like a river? Dry Zen Sect's Che Zhishuan shouted. Cloud Sect's new sect master, Sun Yi, said with a tender voice, Everyone, please calm down. I feel that all ancient godly items have their own consciousness, and they will definitely choose their own master. Ji Anyan of the Ji family adjusted his glasses and sneered. What right does a woman who has slept with all the elders have to speak? Sun Yi's gaze turned cold. Watch your mouth. The Guang clan's clan head, Guang Tianlu, who had been silent all this while, said indifferently, If you don't sleep with the elders, would you be able to ascend to the position so quickly? How dare you? Our sect's sect master is not someone you can slander. Cloud Sect's disciples shouted loudly, all of them drawing their swords. Sun Yi smiled faintly and said, There's no proof for your words. It seems like my Cloud Sect has something to say. In that case, we can only fight with our true strength. Wang Debao spread out his hands. Let's fight then. Fight until there is only one clan left, and the ancient godly item will be his. The few big shots nodded their heads. How could there be no bloodshed when snatching an ancient godly item? Just as the few parties were preparing to start fighting, a lump of black void appeared in the middle of the battlefield. Death Mage could be seen walking out with a scythe in his hand and a cigar in his mouth. There was also a woman hugging onto him. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Sun Fang, who was in Death Mage's embrace, was also stupefied. 1 minute ago, in the rented apartment, Death Mage had already charged his phone fully, just in case his phone ran out of battery while he was playing. He did not want to top up his balance for the time being. The cigar had also been prepared. It was time to set off. But before he left, he still had to ask Baidu how to make a woman fall madly in love with a skeleton. However, the search failed. Let's replace the skeleton with a man. As expected, a lot of answers appeared, and Death Mage felt that none of them were suitable for him. He had to have meat first. A hero saving a damsel in distress? She is too ugly. Subtly showing off to win the heart of a beauty. This could be considered. GGG, Imperial Translation. Ugly woman, I'm bringing you out to show off. Sun Fang was so tired from crying that she fell asleep. She opened her red and swollen eyes and immediately got up to attack. Even Sun Fang, who possessed spiritual power, was not Death Mage's opponent, let alone Sun Fang, who did not possess any spiritual power. Reaching out, he summoned Dark Void and stepped inside. That's what happened a minute ago. The southern girl's eyes were red as she leaned against a skeleton, and her hands seemed to be beating the skeleton's chest. How could such a scene not cause one's imagination to run wild? The tens of thousands of people who were present immediately started whispering to each other. TSK, 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 this cloud sect master sure is licentious. She really did it with a skeleton. Does the skeleton even have one? Look at that girl. She even started crying. The big one was done by the skeleton, and the small one was done by the elder. So this cloud sect is a den of lust. That's right, that's right. I originally thought that sect master Sun was framed, but from the looks of it, her taste is indeed unique. Humph. What do you all know? This is called bone-hugging legs. Do you know who this black robe is? The black robe that is fighting against Xiao Yi. Otherwise, do you think that Sun Fong would serve him? K. There is such a thing. This woman is indeed licentious enough. She even pretended to be a saintess in the past. TSK, tisk. Sun Fong's originally red face gradually became deathly pale. Although they were speaking very softly, their words still entered into her ears. Sun Yi could be seen walking a few steps forward and saying with a smile, "Senior sister, why did you suddenly appear here? It can't be that you have a backer now, so you want to come and snatch me, right?" The big shots who had been secretly in love with Sun Fong completely gave up. Just based on the scene just now, their goddess must have definitely been pleasured to the heavens by the skeleton. Filthy. Pervert. Qinglei sect master said gravely, "Sun Fong, I have misjudged you. I didn't expect that you would abandon yourself and become a female slave of a skeleton. Sun Fong, why did you have to do this in the past? You said that you wouldn't look for a man in your entire life, but now you sigh." Hai Daisy lamented bitterly, and tears of regret flowed out from his eyes. Dry Zen sect master Che Zhishuan said faintly, "Sun Fong indeed didn't look for a man. What she looked for was a skeleton." When Che Zhishuan said those words, everyone laughed. Sun Fong had a bewildered look on her face as she pushed Death Mage away and took a few steps forward woodenly. "You all have misunderstood. It isn't what you all think." Sun Fong roared loudly. "Why is everyone misunderstanding me? How can I possibly be together with a skeleton? I want to take revenge." Traceless Pavilion's Gaizheng said faintly, "Sun Fong, you disappoint me too much. I didn't expect that you are this kind of woman. You truly threw away the face of our cultivation world. Sect Master Sun, quickly go back to your daddy skeleton's embrace. Daddy skeleton's fingers are very long, but they are too thin. My fingers are just right for you. Do you want them or not?" Those disciples immediately started using their taunting skills. Sun Fong clenched her fists tightly, and upon seeing that, Death Mage immediately released the seal on Sun Fong. Boom. Sun Fong's body could be seen emitting a bright light that soared straight into the sky, lighting up everything within a radius of a mile. Everyone was stupefied. She actually broke through at this time. A purple longsword condensed in Sun Fong's hand, and light immediately shot out in all directions. "Why aren't you all willing to believe me? Why?" Sun Fong roared towards the sky, then casually waved the purple longsword in her hand. A purple crescent-shaped sword chi pierced through the sky and slashed towards the crowd of people. The sword chi slashed out a deep ravine, and within the ravine, severed limbs were all from those people who were mocking her just now. A red light flashed past Death Mage's eyes. "This woman is very savage. No wonder his honor wanted her to fall madly in love with me. That way, I would be able to make use of her. His honor is truly formidable." Sun Yi's expression sunk as she shouted out loudly, "Senior Marshal Sister has fallen into the demonic path. Kill her." Sure enough, following Sun Yi's shout, all of Cloud Sect's disciples rushed towards the former sect master. Meanwhile, the other powers that were at the side also started making their move, and several tens of thousands of people started attacking a weak and small woman. Sun Fong slowly put down the long sword in her hand and closed her beautiful eyes. Death is the best release. After waiting for a long time, the pain that Sun Fong imagined didn't come. When Sun Fong opened her eyes, a black robe appeared in front of Sun Fong. Sun Fong was holding onto his scythe, and all of the people in the surroundings were sent flying away by the scythe. Why? Why is it that in the end, it is still my enemy who came to save me, and my family members that I used to be in love with? Chapter 148. Everyone didn't think the black robe would leave so easily. They all thought he would help Sun Fang. Zhua Xian Ran was very annoyed. Sun Fang killed all his people just now. Just as he was about to take revenge, the person disappeared. Don't you think so? Wang Debao chuckled. All right, let's open the coffin first. Yes, let's open the coffin first. It won't be too late to snatch it then. Hai Daisy laughed. However, everyone held their breaths. Just what kind of ancient godly item was inside the coffin? Yin Sect sent out 4 disciples to open the coffin. Those 4 disciples were extremely nervous. Coffin. There must be someone inside. And the ancient godly item was inside the coffin. Maybe it was the guardian of the ancient godly item. Now that the coffin was opened, what if the corpse came back to life? Hurry up. Sun Yi shouted coldly. Dilly-dallying. The 4 disciples didn't dare to waste any more time. They stood at the 4 corners of the coffin, took a deep breath and channeled their energy. Zzz. The white jade coffin emitted a heart-wrenching sound, and no one dared to breathe too loudly. When the coffin lid was opened, the 4 disciples were shocked. A 7 to 8-year-old little girl laid inside. Her hair was tied into 2 ponytails, and she was wearing a beautiful princess dress. Though her eyes were closed, she looked very cute. Her baby fat face made people want to touch it. But no matter how attractive she was, it wasn't as important as the thing in the little girl's hands. Ancient godly item. Yin Sect's disciples' faces darkened. They were the first to snatch it. Hai Daisy humphed. He waved his hands and used wind magic. The 4 people from Yin Sect were blown into the sky and turned into 4 stars. Sect leader Sun, good plan. Gu Zheng's eyes were filled with anger. Sun Yi scolded him for being an idiot and squeezed out a smile. It's inevitable that there will be a few traitors in our sect. On the side, Wang Debao was discussing something with the other 3 patriarchs. It wasn't anything good. Che Zhishuan lifted the coffin up with one hand. It stood upright and faced everyone. Seeing the person and the item inside the coffin, everyone gasped. It was a cute little loli. But no matter how cute she was, she couldn't be as cute as the item in her hands. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Che Zhishuan's gaze froze and mumbled. Everyone, including Wang Debao, was shocked when they heard that. Is this the legendary 9 Demons Punishment Tower? Zhua Xinran exclaimed as he stared at the tower in the little loli's hands. The pagoda in the little loli's hand wasn't very big. It was about the size of an adult's palm, and had 9 levels. The pagoda was ink black, and if one looked closely, they would see that each level was emitting a black fog that surrounded it. Yang Yi looked at the 9 demons Xing pagoda and muttered. It is rumored that countless ancient godly items were dropped during the Great War of Gods and Demons. However, the ancient godly items that have appeared since ancient times have always represented justice. This time, it is actually a demonic creature. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Unbelievable. Legend has it that once this pagoda appears, blood will flow like a river. Guzheng frowned, and his tone was filled with hesitation. He didn't know whether he should snatch it or not. Sun Yi snorted and said, who cares if it's a demon or a god? As long as it's an ancient godly item, it's fine. If you guys don't want it, I want it. As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Yi's delicate body leaped up, and she took the initiative to snatch it. Hai Daisy laughed disdainfully, condensing a large fireball with one hand and throwing it out. Sun Yi pulled out her sword. Insignificant skill. The sword easily destroyed the large fireball. However, at this moment, Yang Yi attacked from the side. Sun Yi hurriedly defended, but was still kicked away by Yang Yi. Luckily, she didn't roll on the ground, or else she would have lost a lot of face. Yang Yi, how dare you sneak attack me? Sun Yi frowned and questioned in a low voice. Hai Daisy and Yang Yi slowly walked to the center and nodded at each other. Then they said, this thing is inauspicious. Burying it underground is the best choice. Guang Tianlu shouted. Alliance leader Hai, sect leader Yang, shouldn't we wait for it to be buried so that you can take it for yourselves? Yang Yi shouted seriously. Everyone. This demonic pagoda bewitches people's hearts. It is rumored that even the gods have been bewitched by it. That's right. This 9 Demons Punishment Tower imprisons the souls of ancient demonic beasts. The higher it is, the more ferocious it is. The one imprisoned at the top is even a demon king. At that time it won't be you controlling the pagoda, but the pagoda controlling you. Haidaisi shouted angrily. However, this kind of advice didn't make them afraid. Instead, they wanted to obtain this pagoda. Wang Debao raised his head and asked loudly, "How do the two of you know so much?" "Humph. How would an outsider like you know our clan's secrets?" Yang Yi said disdainfully. Zhua Xian Ran cracked his neck. "I heard it from the grapevine. You just want to take it for yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhua Xian Ran suddenly summoned his armor, and a long green blade appeared in his right hand. Instantly, he was fully armed and emitted a terrifying amount of spiritual energy. Not only Zhua Xian Ran, but Wang Debao also summoned his equipment. Ji Anyan didn't fully arm himself. Instead, he took out a book and muttered a few words. Instantly, a huge flaming beast appeared. Roar! The huge beast let out an angry roar that shook the heavens and earth. Guang Tianlu took out 3 cards and threw them out. The 3 cards glowed with a white light and turned into 3 dipper wolves. Each dipper wolf was stepping on green flames. It was extremely strange. It was rare for the heads of the 4 great clans of the south to make a move. This caused everyone in the cultivation world to gasp in surprise. As expected of the leaders of the clans. Even so, it seemed like both sides were still clamoring and didn't dare to make a move. If they did, blood would flow like a river. Just as everyone was hesitating, the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the coffin suddenly left their hands and floated in the air. Everyone's eyes were staring at the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the air. Their eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. Instantly, the 9 demons punishing pagoda charged towards Sun Yi. Sun Yi was overjoyed and caught it. "This ancient godly item belongs to me, Sun Yi." Wang Debao shouted, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The scene instantly became chaotic. Fighting started instantly. Not far away, Sky Emperor watched everything with a confident smile on his face. "Kill! Kill to your heart's content. The 9 demons punishing pagoda is mine." In the midst of the battle, the disciples of the 2 sects chatted as they fought. The whole battle was probably still going on even after everyone else died. Don't you think it's strange? What's strange? Pay attention to your expression, and show some killing intent. Don't let them see through you. Look at the little lowly in the coffin. This ancient godly item has been buried for at least 1,000 years. So what? Look at that little lowly, she is even wearing a lace princess dress and a pair of dazzling diamond high heels. Were all people from 10,000 years ago so fashionable? Hearing you say it like that, it is indeed strange. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chong and Lai Gu's expressions were a bit strange, while Yi Hua's expression was still as indifferent as before. The little lowly in the coffin is truly pitiful, dying at such a young age. Qingye couldn't help but say, "Only now did I know that the television didn't lie. For the sake of a treasure, people were willing to kill each other." Chapter 149. Qingye looked at the little lowly in the coffin and said, "That's right, she is so cute, it is such a pity that she died." Wei Chong and Lai Gu took a look at each other, and revealed a helpless expression. "Stop looking, the dishes are getting cold." Yi Hua warned. "This woman is already mesmerized by the scene. Stop messing around, let me see the result. There are so many people fighting over that tower, Yi Hua, why don't you go and fight over it?" Qingye asked curiously. Yi Hua lit up his cigarette and said faintly, "What is there to fight over for trash?" Qingye rolled her eyes at Yi Hua. "Look at you, you're acting cool after smoking is acting up again, sigh." Yi Hua couldn't help but stretch out his hand and pinch that smooth little face. "Eat your food." Humph, although Qingye started eating, her gaze was still on the scene. The others had already finished eating, and were currently looking at the result. Yi Hua leaned on the chair and smoked while looking at the little lowly in the coffin. The scene was extremely tragic. Out of the tens of thousands of people, only 1,000 were left. Although the big shots didn't die, they were injured. Right now, the 9-demon punishment tower was like a hot potato. Whoever took it would be beaten up. This caused the ancient godly item to be thrown onto the ground like a piece of scrap metal. Boom boom boom. Under the bombardment from the cultivation world, the fire beast fell onto the ground. Ji Anyan coughed out a mouthful of blood, and the family members immediately went up to support him. Everyone, I will be leaving first. Ji Anyan held onto his chest. Summoning the fire beast consumed too much of his energy. I didn't expect that the cultivation world's weaklings would be so strong. It will take at least a year for me to recover my strength. Wang Debao's expression sunk. Ji Anyan, you are leaving just like that? Wang Debao, farewell. Wang Debao almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. So your ass. Scum. The cultivation world is indeed a sect that has existed for thousands of years. Their foundation is endless. Families that have existed for tens of years are unable to withstand their bombardment. Wang Debao's gaze became serious. I'm afraid that the ancient godly item is going to fall into the hands of the cultivation world. Emperor Song, who was watching the battle, was already getting restless. He just had to wait a little longer. Now that one of them had left, the various patriarchs were already unable to withstand the attacks from the cultivation world. Very soon, it would turn into an internal strife in the cultivation world. At that time, while they were fighting to the death, he would be able to sit back and reap the benefits. Wouldn't that be great? In a corner of the field, two disciples were still fighting. The people around them had all fallen, leaving only the two of them alive. This seemed a little fake. You or me. Let's fall together. If we continue to pretend, we'll be exposed. All right. Pour it out together. The two of them seemed to be talking as they flew backwards. However, one of them landed on a corpse. Puff. Brother, be gentle. F*CK brother, you're pretending to be dead too. Stop talking. Play dead. However, not far away from them, the 9 demons punishing pagoda that no one wanted suddenly rose into the sky and flew into the distance. The people who were fighting were shocked and immediately followed him out. Emperor Tsong's heart sank. Seeing a large number of people flying over, could it be that he had been exposed? Unexpectedly, when a black shadow appeared, Grey Emperor was overjoyed. He caught it in his hand and felt a familiar smell. People from the north. Che Jishuan shouted, and a few poisons appeared in his hand. It was one thing for him to snatch it from the south, but the people from the north were here too. What was this? At this moment, the people who were fighting seemed to be united as they attacked Emperor Tsong's group. The 3 people behind Emperor Tsong were so scared that they peed their pants. They didn't have a good grasp of the plot at all. It was a complete collapse. They couldn't care less about the contract. They just wanted to run first. Emperor Tsong didn't care about this at all. His goal was to get the 9 demons punishing pagoda in his hands. Now that he had achieved it, what else did he need them for? Who are you? Sunny pointed her sword at Emperor Tsong and shouted. Emperor Tsong raised the 9 demons punishing pagoda and shouted, I am Emperor Tsong. Everyone was stunned. They had never heard of such a strange name. Emperor Tsong? For words, and it sounded so strange. Could he be Master Tsong's man? Emperor Tsong had a cold smile on his face. Come and worship me. Now that the 9 demons punishing pagoda is in my hands, who can defeat me? As long as I release the vengeful spirits in the 9 demons punishing pagoda, all of you will die. Die. However, just as Emperor Tsong was about to show off his might, the southern expert in front of him flew away. Stupefied, Emperor Tsong was stunned. He raised his head and looked at his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had disappeared. An unprecedented rage erupted in Emperor Tsong's heart. Boom. With Emperor Tsong at the center, a shockwave spread out in all directions. The shockwave immediately resonated with the heavens and earth. Meanwhile, Emperor Tsong transformed into a lump of black fog and chased after the shockwave. The 9 demons punishing pagoda belongs to me, Emperor Tsong. Don't even think of getting it. All of Emperor Tsong's plans were disrupted. Right now, he could only snatch the pagoda forcefully. Right now, at the center of the battlefield, there was a river of blood on the ground. There were still a lot of people who were still alive lying on the ground and wailing in pain. There were also a lot of people who were pretending to be dead, who were observing the situation. Within the white jade coffin, The little loli who had her eyes closed suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Her eyes were bright red, and if one were to look closely, one could see complicated black patterns within her eyes. However, when paired with her face, her eyes were truly adorable. The little loli could be seen grinning as she lightly floated out of the coffin. Soon after, she landed on the ground, and a pair of pure white heels stepped onto the blood. La 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 la, I am an expert in killing. The little loli's sweet melody rang out in the hell-like venue. She ran and jumped about, and the blood on the ground splattered onto her white princess dress, gradually dyeing the dress into a bright red color. The white diamond high heels that were originally white were also dyed red. Boom! Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and a heavy rain started pouring down. At this moment, the scene could really be described as a river of blood. La 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 la, where are you guys? The little loli jumped and jumped as she searched for them. The two who were pretending to be dead just now could no longer hold back the fear in their hearts, and their bodies started trembling. That little loli that was within the coffin actually woke up. What was I supposed to say? There is definitely something wrong with that little loli. Since when did the ancients wear princess dresses? Found you, a sweet voice rang out beside his ears. The man swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his entire body was trembling as he slowly turned his head around. Although the little loli in front of him was adorable, this kind of adorableness carried a deep sense of brutality. The corner of her mouth that was slightly raised caused one's heart to stiffen. You won't be able to escape. The little loli's ponytail suddenly rose up. The man couldn't help but want to escape, but that was impossible. He could only watch as the ponytail drilled into his mouth, and he could even feel that his hair was growing crazily in his mouth, from his head to his feet. No. She is sucking my blood essence. No. No. The man's miserable screams rang out in the spacious and empty venue, and the little loli's ponytail gradually turned from black to red. Looking at the man in front of her that had already withered up, the little loli retracted her ponytail. It wasn't easy for me to think of a way, but only this many people came. Hateful, what a waste of my brain cells. The little loli puffed up her cheeks and stomped her feet. Her ponytails immediately fluttered about, and no matter if it was dead or alive, she would stab it into the man's mouth and absorb it. Those who were dead already had no feeling, and they were considered lucky. However, those who were pretending to be dead felt as if their bones were being peeled off, and they were wailing unceasingly. Chapter 150. Beside the waterfall. Chinya had already completely fainted. When both sides were fighting in full swing, one wouldn't be able to endure the feeling of dizziness. If she were to see the scene of the little loli sucking the blood of the little loli, she reckoned that she would definitely turn into a fool. Yihua hugged onto Chinya and lightly caressed onto Chinya's smooth face. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. The stimulation training is almost done. I have to take it slow, boss. Lai Gu put away his usual frivolous attitude and said gravely. Yihua looked towards the night sky and said faintly, "Let's take a look first." In an instant, a black figure was flying towards the campsite at high speed. Yihua silently raised his head and took a look at the black figure, then lightly waved his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda came to a sudden stop, and stopped not far away from Yihua. The black fog in the tower was very thick, as if it was showing off its strength. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, as if it was about to charge out. A trace of red light flashed past Yihua's eyes. However, when the red light flashed, the black fog in the 9 demons' punishment tower seemed to pause for a moment. After being stunned for 0.1 seconds, all of it shrank back into the tower and trembled. A mere little demon dares to clamor in front of me? If not for the fact that I still have some use for them, I would have burned them all. Right now, the 9 demons punishing pagoda was no different from ordinary decorations. In fact, it could even be said to be ugly. It was just a black iron pagoda shaped like a pagoda. The 4 maids were stunned. In order to snatch the 9 demons punishing pagoda, more than 10,000 people had died. However, when it came to the boss, they could see the disdain on his face. Even the raging pagoda had quietened down. What an enigmatic boss. Wei Chang and Lai Gu deeply wrinkled their brows. It was not because of tower, but rather, they were worried about how his honor was going to deal with her. Yi Hua was indeed thinking about how to deal with the situation. To kill or not to kill, it would still have to depend on the actual situation. Taking a deep breath, Yi Hua lightly waved his hand once more, and the 9 demons punishing pagoda on the table immediately flew back like a cannonball. High up in the sky not far away, Song Di had already caught up to the crowd, and he was even at the very front. He had even injured Hai Daisi and Che Jixuan while he was at it, and his chances of seizing the ancient godly item had increased by a bit. Get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Even I am afraid of you. Song Di shouted in a low voice. Right now, he had to put on a false show of strength and take advantage of this momentum to suppress them. Otherwise, if they joined forces, it would be very difficult to deal with them. The others didn't even bother with Song Di and continued flying. Emperor Song had never been ignored like this before, and he immediately flashed in front of everyone. You don't know how to appreciate favors. You really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Today, I will exterminate all of you. Just as Grey Emperor was about to display his might, a shocking aura came from behind him. Grey Emperor thought that someone was sneaking up on him, so he slightly dodged. Wang Debao, who was in the group, was overjoyed. It was not a hidden weapon at all. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had flown back. And it's flying towards me, haha. As expected, Wang Debao's luck has never been bad. Even if it's snatching an ancient godly item, it's still a stroke of good luck. Wang Debao caught the 9 demons punishing pagoda, and to everyone's surprise, he turned around and ran without a second thought. Seeing this, Zhou Xinran and Guang Tianlu both chose to retreat, while the other cultivators continued to chase after them. However, Grey Emperor did not move. His handsome face was filled with malevolence. Just who was it that was playing with him? Who was it? Looking back, not far away in the valley, there were traces of fire. Emperor Song clenched his fists tightly, and an unending stream of spiritual energy erupted from his body. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged and thunder rumbled, as if the end of the world had arrived. He did not need the ancient godly item, but the person who played with him must die. Emperor Song immediately flew towards the valley with an astonishing aura. Yi Hua and the others did not leave the dining table. Everyone was quietly sitting on the table, seemingly waiting for something. Wei Chong and Lai Gu were a little abnormal, while the 4 maids were rather indifferent. As for Yi Hua, who was carrying Qingya in his embrace, he would either pinch her face or pinch her nose. In any case, he was just bullying her in various ways. Boom! A figure descended from the sky and created a huge splash, causing the ground to tremble. Beep, beep, beep. The alarms of the 2 Qians rang out. Emperor Song looked at the people who were camping in front of him, and revealed a look of doubt. Isn't that man the owner of the bar? There's also that security guard and that young man. There are also 4 people who are dressed in maid attire. What are they doing here? Thinking back to the black robe that appeared at the very beginning, Emperor Song seemed to have thought of something. We are just bait, and the black robe might be lying in ambush nearby. But so what? I, Emperor Song, can kill them with just a flick of my fingers. On the other hand, these women are all top grade. It would be a pity for them to die. Yi Hua didn't even look at Emperor Song, who was walking over, and was still pinching Qingya's face. Wei Chong let out a breath. One of you go and deal with them. The eyes of the 4 maids shone. Right now even Tang Wei has fallen. Not only is she not afraid, she even has the desire to fight. Emperor Song looked at the 4 maids who stood up and walked to the side and whispered to each other. Soon after, he heard their sweet voices. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Haha, I won, Bai Xiaozhen shouted out happily and felt very embarrassed. The other 3 women pouted their mouths. This is a chance for me to show off. Not only can I show off in front of men, I can also show off in front of the boss. What kind of glory is this? I wonder when I will have to wait for the next time. Bai Xiaozhen placed her hands on her abdomen and slowly walked to the front of Emperor Song. Then she said shyly, "Hello, I am your opponent." Emperor Tsong looked as if he had received a critical hit of 10,000 damage. His entire being was sinister and terrifying. They actually used rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go on stage. The main point was the women. And they even came over to greet you. Damn it, this isn't good. Tonight, my dignity was already trampled on twice. And yet, when I came here, I was humiliated again. And I was even humiliated by a weak woman. To actually disregard my existence, don't blame me for being ruthless. Bai Xiaojun appeared to be very embarrassed. Seeing that Emperor Tsong's face was twitching, Bai Xiaojun thought that Emperor Tsong was sick. Just as the two were preparing to make their move, a sweet singing voice rang out from the forest. Little rabbit, be obedient, open the door, quickly open the door, I want hee. Lai Gu's gaze became serious. Xiaojun, come back. Bai Xiaojun turned her head around and took a look at the man confusedly, then sighed and walked back. Emperor Tsong did not pay attention to Bai Xiaojun and looked at the shadow in the forest. As the singing voice got closer and closer, the shadow finally appeared. Emperor Tsong's gaze was filled with astonishment. Isn't this little loli the person inside the coffin? Why did she come out? The little loli took a glance at the coffin, and her red pupils became even more dazzling. Little rabbits, you all have been hiding here, causing me to search for you all for so long. I don't even want to move anymore, I'm so tired. The little loli fanned herself with her little hands. This action of hers was truly adorable. Emperor Tsong's expression distorted. The biggest humiliation of my entire life is tonight. Pretending to be mysterious. Emperor Tsong could be seen aiming his palms towards the little loli, and a black light could be seen gushing out from his body, causing the ground to immediately cave in. Destroy you, yumming. Chapter 151. Emperor Tsong retracted his palms and stared ahead. The dust gradually dissipated, revealing a gigantic semicircular chasm in front of him. It was as though a gigantic machine had excavated a mountain range. Emperor Tsong's gaze changed from indifference to calmness, then gradually changed to shock, and finally revealed a horrified expression. Looking at that black shadow, Emperor Tsong found it hard to believe. Shattering Yu Yumming was one of his ultimate moves, and no one had ever been able to withstand it, not to mention being unscathed. But now, the little loli's pure white princess dress was spotless. Even her smile didn't change. Her two ponytails fluttered in the wind. The little loli covered her mouth and giggled. Oh you're amazing. The four maids who were watching the battle were also stunned. Just who was this little loli? However, Yi Hua and the others appeared to be very calm. Sky Emperor's breathing quickened. The girl in front of him wasn't a little loli at all. She was a monster. As expected, the guardians of the ancient godly items were all abnormal existences. A wise man does not fight when the odds are against him. I will go and snatch the ancient godly equipment first. Sky Emperor did not hesitate, he turned and ran. The current him didn't care about his face at all. This little freak was completely unscathed under his finishing move, so his strength was definitely formidable. He might as well leave it to those people from Leisure Bar to deal with him, and it could be considered as using someone else to do his dirty work. The little loli smiled wickedly. Little bunny wants to run? That's not cute at all. The two ponytails shot out in an instant, and the escaping Songdi turned pale with fright. Unexpectedly, his left leg was entangled by the ponytails. Graytharch condensed a long saber in his hand and ruthlessly chopped down. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Songdi looked at the broken saber in his hand and revealed a look of fear. This was impossible. The ponytail was like a venomous snake. In an instant, it wrapped itself around Emperor Tsong's leg and pulled fiercely. Bang! Songdi's entire body smashed down like a cannonball, creating a huge splash and forming a huge pit. In the pit, Songdi's face was filled with panic. His entire body had been entangled by the ponytail, and no matter how he struggled, it was of no use. However, another ponytail slowly stretched out. Songdi stared at that strand of hair with a panicked expression, feeling even more terrified. Those hairs were actually small mouths with sharp teeth. No, don't come over. Sky Emperor was completely flustered, but no one could save him now. The ponytail instantly pierced into Tsangdi's mouth, spreading all over his body, sucking up the delicious blood essence, only to see that Sky Emperor's body was withering at a speed that the naked eye could see. In less than 10 seconds, only his skeleton and outer layer of skin were left. No one would be able to recognize that he was the famous Sky Emperor. And even though Emperor Tsang died, he didn't understand many things. The little loli licked her bright red lips. So delicious, much better than those. Retracting her ponytail, the little loli bounced over to a place not far away from Yihua and said with a slight smile, "Those are all little rabbits. You guys are the big tigers. Don't run away like little rabbits. If not, I will be very angry." Yihua lightly caressed Qingya, who was in his embrace, then looked at the little loli who was not far away from him and asked faintly, "What is your name?" The little loli pouted and poked her chin with her index finger. After thinking for a long time, she said, I'm not telling you." "Yizizi," Yihua shouted gravely. Little Lolita's scarlet eyes were suddenly startled. She suddenly jumped back, and the smile on her face immediately disappeared. She asked coldly, "Who are you? Why do you know me?" Yihua stared at the little loli's every movement and even the minute expression on her face, then shouted coldly, "Yizizi, do you know the consequences of lying to me?" The little loli grinned and shook her ponytail. "Although I don't know why you know me, but you guys are really delicious. Impudent." "Impudent." Wei Chang and Lai Gu shouted out, and a burst of killing intent erupted out from their bodies. The little loli spread out her hands and had a look of disdain on her face. She even took out a small mirror and looked at herself to see if her hairstyle had changed or not. Wei Chang and Lai Gu could clearly feel that his honor was really angry, and the two hurriedly said, "Boss, let us do it." Yihua knew what Wei Chang and Lai Gu were thinking. They wanted to protect her. That's right. Wei Chang and Lai Gu indeed wanted to protect the little loli. If they were to take action, the little loli would definitely not die, but if they were to let his honor take action, the little loli would most likely die. Wei Chang and Lai Gu felt that his honor was just joking in the past. How could it be possible for the seven sins to betray his honor? However, looking at the current situation, it was no different from betraying his honor. Although in the past she was everyone's joy, and even when she took on a human's name, she still had the same surname as his honor, and even went so far as to give his honor a nickname, Big Bones. Within the seven sins, only she, Yizizi, dared to address his honor as Big Bones. However, the current her was no longer the Yizizi from back then. Even if that was the case, Wei Chang and Lai Gu found it hard to believe what was happening in front of their eyes. Yihua took a deep breath, and his thoughts went back to a long time ago. He remembered that back then, Yizizi was still very small, just like a little doll. Back then, Yizizi was being surrounded by humans, and when I and the others passed by this place, we killed the humans. Originally, we were going to kill Yizizi, but one of the seven sins could see that Yizizi was not a human, and thus he spared Yizizi's life. Even now, Yihua could still remember that back then, Yizizi's eyes were scarlet red, and she had a look of not wanting to admit defeat. The facts proved that in the future, Yizizi would become an indispensable character within the seven sins. Wei Chang only ate living humans, while Yizizi didn't even let the dead off. However, she had a bad personality, and that was that she was too lazy. If she could lie down, she would definitely not sit down. I really don't know where she learned this bad habit from. From what happened today, it could be seen that Yizizi didn't want to go to the seven sins one by one, and instead, she wanted to use an ancient godly item to lure the seven sins over and capture all of them in one go. Looking at that familiar face, the final scene appeared in Yihua's mind. Yizizi was surrounded and attacked by three overlords, and in the end, she fell into Yihua's embrace. The words that she said back then were still resounding in Yihua's mind. He remembered that back then, Yizizi's entire body was covered in blood, and she didn't even have the strength to raise her hand. However, that pair of scarlet red eyes of hers was still leaking out unwillingness. Big Bones, Zizi doesn't want to die, Zizi wants to play with you. Zizi wants to compete with the gluttonous monster. Zizi still wants to ride the Big Bone Dragon. Zizi wants to be together with you all, Big Bones. Zizi is so cold, so cold. Sensing that Yi Zizi's body was gradually becoming stiff, Yi Hua revealed the pain of humanity for the first time, and Yi Hua's painful howls resounded throughout the entire battlefield. Yi Zizi, the first of the 7 sins to die in battle. Back then everyone went crazy. Even if they had to exchange injuries for injuries, they still wanted to kill those 3 overlords. She was indeed exactly the same as Yi Zizi, everything was the same, but in the end, it was just an empty shell. And the soul had already changed. Yi Hua wouldn't allow anyone to taint the Yi Zizi from back then, even if it was just an empty shell. Chapter 152. Wei Chong and Lai Gu turned pale with fright and shouted out involuntarily, "Your Honor!" When the 4 maids heard how Wei Chong and Lai Gu addressed him, their heads were filled with doubt. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, and Wei Chong and Lai Gu immediately lowered their heads. After placing Qingye into the tent, Yi Zizi tidied up Qingye's hair and sighed. Walking out of the tent, Yi Zizi stood 5 meters away from Yi Zizi. Wei Chong and Lai Gu revealed a nervous expression, not knowing what exactly His Honor was going to do to Yi Zizi. Yi Hua took out a cigarette case, took out a cigarette and lit it up. With his brows slightly wrinkled, he said, "It has been a long time since I last fought." Yi Zizi stared at the man in front of her, and a trace of doubt appeared in her heart. She felt that he was a little familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen him. But no matter what, he was still delicious food. "Hee, you are the most pretentious person I have ever seen," Yi Zizi said with a smile, revealing cute dimples on her cheeks. Yi Hua laughed lightly. "Your guts are truly getting bigger and bigger." Humph, I have a lot of guts." Yi Zizi even gestured, looking very cute. Yi Zizi's actions and tone are still the same as before. What exactly is going on? Suddenly, Yi Zizi's scarlet eyes became strange, as if they were rotating. Then Yi Zizi exclaimed, "Wow, you're a big bone." The cigarette in Yi Hua's hand immediately broke and fell beside his leather shoes. With a bit of surprise, Yi Hua said, "Big bone." He remembered that Yi Zizi used to call him that in the past. Back then he was still a skeleton. Even after being lectured several times, Yi Zizi still didn't change her way of addressing him. "I didn't expect your true body to be big bone." Yi Zizi was slightly surprised. She then looked to the other side. A monster and a bone dragon. Things were getting interesting. Yi Hua let out a sigh. I thought that Yi Zizi had remembered something, but it turns out that her pair of eyes had seen through my true form. Yi Zizi's eyes were filled with excitement. "What a cute big bone. How about you be my pet? I won't suck you." The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly, and Lai Gu, who was at the side, seemed to have thought of the past, and he felt gloomy as well. Lai Gu remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was very mischievous, and furthermore, she also had a problem with aesthetics. Yi Zizi would praise His Honor for being handsome every day, and expressed that she also wanted a skeleton as a pet. But His Honor refused to give it to Yi Zizi, and in the end, Yi Zizi came to look for trouble with Lai Gu, and even wanted to ride on Yi Zizi's back then. Not being able to ride on Lai Gu was one of Yi Zizi's biggest regrets before she died. That will depend on whether you have the ability or not. Alright then, I'll go easy on you. A true battle was about to break out, and Yi Zizi also became serious. Although she sounded relaxed, she could faintly sense that the other party was very powerful. It was the same for the other 2. And as for the other 4 women, they were negligible. "Pavilion Master, it's there." All of a sudden, a black crowd surged over. There were at least 3,000 people. They were the northern forces that followed Emperor Tsang here. Originally, he was in too much of a hurry when he escaped and lost contact with Emperor Tsang. Now he had no idea where Emperor Tsang had gone. He thought that it would be better for him to just return to avoid any more accidents. However, the Pavilion Master of the Extreme Wool Pavilion and Feng Sheng's subordinates had reported to him, so he decided to come to this stronghold to take a look. The Sumeru Workshops Xu Jinhai and the Phoenix King Pavilion's Man Kai also came over to take a look as a form of respect for He Feng. 3,000 people descended and occupied half of the empty space in the small valley. The 3 big shots immediately saw Emperor Tsang, who had been sucked dry. However, the 3 of them only took a glance at Emperor Tsang before shifting their gazes away. After all, with Emperor Tsong's current appearance, even if his mother came over, she wouldn't be able to recognize him. Because Yi Zizi's back was facing everyone, the three big shots only felt that Yi Zizi looked familiar. Yi Hua, on the other hand, was facing Yi Zizi, and the three big shots felt that Yi Zizi looked really stylish. There were also 2 men and 4 women beside Yi Zizi, and there were even tents beside Yi Zizi. From the looks of it, Yi Zizi's taste is rather heavy. Also, what is the meaning of this little loli, who is wearing a princess dress? Looking at the two's posture, it seems like they are preparing to fight. Mankai hated people who bullied little girls the most. How can you be like this, to even bully little girls? After speaking, Mankai walked towards Yi Zizi with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. Yi Zizi silently lit up a cigarette. Mankai patted onto Yi Zizi's shoulder, then said with a smile, "Little girl, don't be afraid, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, you can just tell Big Brother." Big Brother, really? Yi Zizi turned around with a smile. Mankai's pupils grew bigger and bigger. Isn't this the fucking little loli in the coffin? In the beginning, I was still sighing. A strand of hair quietly drilled into the dumbstruck Mankai's mouth. In just a few seconds, Mankai turned into a dried corpse. However, the strand of hair didn't come out and supported Mankai's corpse. This caused the people behind to think that Mankai was whispering to the little loli. "Tower Master Man, that should be enough." Yifeng frowned and shouted out. "With so many disciples watching, even if you don't care about your face, I still care about it." Seeing that Mankai still didn't have any reaction, everyone couldn't help but raise their vigilance. Xu Zhenhai shouted out loudly, "Tower Master Man, enough is enough. Don't throw away the face of your Phoenix King Pavilion." The disciples of the Phoenix King Pavilion felt extremely awkward. The Tower Master's illness is acting up again. Yi Zizi used the strand of hair to control Mankai and slowly turned around. The dried-up Mankai could be seen stretching out his hands and making a peace sign. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi's head turned 180 degrees and shouted out sweetly. Also, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air and took a step back. At the moment of imminent peril, Yifeng and Xu Zhenhai immediately shouted out, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Everyone knew of Mankai's strength. For Mankai to be able to kill Mankai without making a sound, Mankai's strength was definitely not ordinary. The people that were sent here must have been sucked dry. Hateful little white rabbit, trying to run again, Yi Zizi puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. Tens of thousands of strands of hair quickly grew longer, causing people to shiver. Snap. Right at this moment, a finger snap echoed in the valley. Yi Zizi went into a daze and slowly turned her head back. Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette and his right hand was slightly raised. Yi Zizi's eyes focused. A circular red barrier immediately appeared around her body. The circular barrier seemed to be withstanding some kind of powerful attack as it trembled slightly. Soon after, cracks appeared on the barrier like a spider web. Yi Zizi looked at the barrier curiously. However, the 3,000 people that were running away instantly turned into dust, as if they were never there in the first place. The walls of the valley were also shaved off by an invisible force. The pitiful Emperor Tsong originally had a corpse, but right now, not even a trace of his corpse was left. This was a finger snap that was compressed again and again. It was the first time Yi Hua tested it, and he felt that the power of the finger snap was pretty good. It was able to cause fatal damage to those people, but it did not have any effect on Yi Zizi. Chapter 153. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. He lightly waved his left hand, and the two instantly disappeared from the valley. Wei Chong looked at the two that disappeared, then turned his head around and looked at Lai Gu. Gluttonous monster, think of a way. Lai Gu said anxiously. He was about to reveal his true form. Wei Chong looked at the place where the two disappeared and took a deep breath. The reason why his honor didn't look for them is because he wanted to see their attitude. But Zizi is different. We watched Zizi grow up. Lai Gu was like an ant on a hot pot. He was afraid that his honor would get angry and kill Zizi. How could Wei Chong not understand that there is a good side to human nature? But there is also a bad side to human nature. Suspicion. His honor is different from the past. He won't be as unreasonable as he was back then. Wei Chang sighed and said, then walked to the small stool and picked up the fishing rod. However, he didn't throw the fishing rod out. It could be seen that Wei Chang was actually very worried. Lai Gu stomped his feet heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Crushed stones fell from the mountain, and the birds in the forest immediately flew up into the sky. The two of them were helpless right now, and could only wait for the result. Forcefully interfering would only make the result worse. On the other side, Yi Zizi looked around curiously. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, and there were a lot of dilapidated houses. The wood of the houses had already decayed. Big Bone, why did you bring me here? Yi Zizi asked curiously. She felt that the two of them didn't seem like they were going to fight at all. Yi Hua smoked his cigarette and walked to the side of a rotten wood. He lightly touched the rotten wood with his fingertip, and the rotten wood immediately turned into broken pieces. You were here at that time. Yi Hua breathed out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. What was I doing here? Yi Hua didn't answer and said calmly. You are very stubborn. I originally wanted to kill you, but you are very lucky. Bragging. Yi Zizi snorted, then tilted her head 45 degrees, looking very cute. However, you were still saved and became one of my subordinates. Yi Zizi spread out her hands. All right, you are really bragging to the heavens. If you can still remember now, I can let bygones be bygones. Yi Hua's tone changed and emitted out an eerie killing intent. Yi Zizi went silent for a while, then suddenly, of a look as if she remembered of everything, she said. I remember coming. Yi Hua paused for a moment. Really? Haha, Big Bone, you are so gullible. Yi Zizi stuck out her tongue and made a funny face. This angered Yi Hua quite a bit, and a powerful killing intent immediately exploded out from his entire body. The killing intent seethed like huge waves in the sea, causing the surrounding air to seem as if it was going to solidify, causing people to feel suffocated. The sharp aura caused Yi Zizi's ponytail to dance wildly. However, Yi Zizi was not afraid at all. An unprecedented excitement appeared on her adorable face. Big Bone is amazing, I can do it too. A killing intent that did not lose out to Yi Hua could be seen erupting out from Yi Zizi's body. Although the two killing intents were formless, when they clashed together, a qualitative change occurred. Suddenly, two murderous auras materialized and spread out in a circle. However, this killing intent was like a sickle, cutting through everything. There was not a single meter-tall tree in a 10-mile radius. Countless creatures were cut in half. Yi Zizi giggled, and a bright red spear instantly appeared in her hands. This spear was not ordinary. The spearhead was as long as the spear body, and the spearhead was scarlet red, emitting out a faint layer of blood mist. Meanwhile, the body of the spear was like a flowing river of blood, and one could even hear the cries of aggrieved souls, causing people to tremble with fear. Immediately afterward, a set of white crystal armor appeared on Yi Zizi's body as well. The armor covered 99% of Yi Zizi's body, and even her eyes were the same. As for the remaining 1%, it was her ponytail that was revealed. Various kinds of runes were imprinted on the armor, and every rune represented a type of defense, which was unimaginable. Big Bone, are you going to fight with me empty-handed? Yi Zizi's sweet voice rang out from within the armor. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette in his hand. Yi Hua could be heard saying calmly, Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination. Its biggest specialty is that during battle, it can suck the opponent's blood essence, even if it didn't touch the opponent's body. And that faint red mist is even more fatal. It replaced your hair, and unknowingly, the enemy would be able to inhale it, causing them to hallucinate. And this is only the first stage. You should know the second stage even without me saying it. Moon Scroll Profound Armor. It can be said to be a perfect grade defense, but it is a pity that you have to poke 2 holes to expose your hair. And these 2 holes are the flaws. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a stiff expression. She found it hard to believe. Why does he know all of my secrets? Impossible. How do you know all of these? Yi Zizi's tone suddenly changed. It was no longer the sweet lowly voice. It was as if a ghost was crying. Along with Yi Zizi's roar, It once again formed a sound wave that swept towards the surroundings. Yihua looked at Yi Zizi, who was in an unstable state of mind, and said faintly, "Because all of these were given to you by me." "Impossible. You lied to me." Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a sinister expression. Yihua knew all of my secrets, and Yi Zizi knew what this meant. Yihua sneered, then his body gradually degenerated, and in a blink of an eye, his original body was revealed. A skeleton. Compared to Death Mage was slightly taller by a bit. His shoulder width was the same as well, and his bone structure was the same as well. However, his skull was extremely similar. It could be seen that Death Mage was also a very handsome person in the past. Yihua stretched out his 5 fingers and took a look at them. It has been a long time since I last looked at my main body, and I am a bit not used to it. Now your blood stirrup solitary illumination is useless against me. At most, it's just a sharp spear. There's nothing to fear. Yi Zizi tightly gripped the blood stirrup solitary illumination spear in her hand. The blood mist on the spearhead increased greatly. It could be seen how indignant Yi Zizi was right now. As for breaking your moon scroll profound armor, I have many ways. For example, Yihua waved his hand, and thousands of miniaturized weapons could be seen revolving around his body. As for Yihua, it was as if he was playing with a tablet computer. All of a sudden, Yihua chose one of them and grabbed onto it. A purple long blade could be seen appearing in Yihua's hand. The entire body of the blade was engraved with golden stripes, and an unknown golden liquid was flowing out from the tip of the blade. After the golden liquid fell onto the blade, the golden liquid knew how to flow on its own, as if the golden liquid had its own consciousness. This gold flame dark blade is enough to break your crescent mystic armor. As for the blood stirrup solitary illumination in your hands, Yihua could be seen waving his hand once again. Thousands of armors could be seen appearing around Yihua's body. Yihua chose one of the armors, and the skeleton immediately condensed out. Although this secret feather armor is not a top-notch item, it is still able to suppress the blood chi in your body. If you match it with, immediately, a shield condensed out on Yihua's left hand. If you match it with this serene heavy shield, it will be able to suppress your blood chi to the lowest point. As expected, the blood stirrup solitary illumination spear, which was originally filled with blood chi, gradually weakened, and only traces of blood mist could be seen coming out from it. Although I am not good at strength, it is still enough to deal with you. Chapter 154. Thinking back to the past, he had been a fool. He had put aside some top-tier equipment, and insisted on using his own body to defeat his enemies. After all these years of understanding, Yihua felt that wearing equipment was also a kind of advantage. Of course, every mage had the heart of a warrior. Death Mage was also the same. Suddenly, cracks began appearing on the ground beneath Yi Zizi's feet, and even the air seemed to be trembling. Yihua's gaze immediately became serious. Yi Zizi covered his helmet with one hand, and suddenly burst into laughter. "You underestimate me, Yi Zizi. Big Bone, you've really made me angry." Boom. Yi Zizi's aura completely erupted. The blood stirrups in her hand shone brighter than before. "Looks like your strength has also increased. That's good. Let's fight." Yihua raised up the heavy shield in his hand, and placed the gold flame dark blade on top of the shield, then slightly tilted his body. Don't look at how Yi Zizi was a little lowly. Her explosive power was the most ferocious among the 7 deadly sins. At that time, Yihua didn't dare to take Yi Zizi's spear head-on, but right now it was different. Yihua had the confidence that he could win against Yi Zizi with his weak power. Die. Yi Zizi let out a ghostly cry and leapt high into the air. Yihua raised his head slightly, and saw that the sky behind Yi Zizi was filled with blood mist. Countless sinister faces of vengeful spirits appeared behind Yi Zizi, and their miserable cries could be heard. "I have said it before. Your moves are useless against me. I am completely able to suppress you." Yihua raised his heavy shield high up. Bang! A loud sound suddenly rang out between the heavens and the earth. The originally clear sky was filled with dark clouds, and it was soon dyed red by the color of blood. It was as if the entire world had fallen into blood. The collision of the weapons created a huge shockwave, and everything around it evaporated. This was just a simple collision. Blood Stirrup's solitary illumination could be seen emitting out a blood mist, which instantly enveloped Yi Hua. However, Yi Hua was just a skeleton, so where would he get the blood essence from? Yi Hua's main body was able to restrain Yi Zizi. I have said it before, your moves are useless against me. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, and the gold flame dark blade that was in his hand slashed towards Yi Zizi while carrying along a berserk aura. Yi Zizi snorted and grabbed the blade with her left hand. Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. Yi Zizi's strength has far surpassed my estimation. From the looks of it, after coming back to life, she has become stronger as well, and is no longer the Yi Zizi from back then. The strength is not bad. This is indeed a good saber, but it can't break my Moon Scroll mystic armor. Yi Zizi snorted disdainfully. Although Yi Hua was shocked by Yi Zizi's strength, it was not to the extent of being defeated. I have said it before, this blade is used to break your Moon Scroll profound armor. Yi Hua said coldly. What a joke. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Yi Zizi saw the golden liquid flowing into her hand. Yi Zizi immediately let go of the golden flame dark blade, and tried to fling the disgusting liquid away, but to no avail. Pay attention to your feet. Yi Hua reminded. Yi Zizi looked and saw that another golden liquid had wrapped around her leg. Yi Zizi, if you had listened to me back then and didn't poke those 2 holes, you wouldn't have died, but you didn't listen. Yi Hua shouted out coldly. Back then, the human Yi Zizi was also able to find Yi Zizi's flaw and kill her with a single strike. Yi Zizi scurried up and down, and countless holes were smashed open on the ground. However, those 2 golden liquid were just like glue, sticking tightly onto Yi Zizi's back and slowly crawling towards the holes on the Moon Scroll profound armor. Get away from me, oh! Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, suddenly let out a ghastly howl. Yi Hua looked on silently. The Moon Scroll profound armor was only Yi Zizi's first line of defense, and her real body was the second line of defense. However, back then, the 3 Yi Zizi didn't even give Yi Zizi the chance to become her real body. Of course, I am also able to do it right now, but the 2 golden liquid finally crawled into the holes after much difficulty. Yi Zizi, who was still scurrying around just a moment ago, immediately stopped moving, as if her body was frozen. Just what is this thing? Yi Zizi asked while standing there foolishly. Yi Hua said calmly, the golden flame dark blade's formidability doesn't lie in itself, rather, it lies in those 2 golden liquid. Those 2 golden liquid are able to fuse into one's blood and spread a virus, causing one to lose their battle prowess. At that time, your Moon Scroll profound armor will only be a decoration. So that's how it is, Big Bone. You are powerful, but I am not willing to give up. Yi Zizi's tone was getting weaker and weaker, as if she was going to collapse at any moment. Yi Hua let out a breath. Just surrender. Yi Zizi laughed bitterly, then collapsed onto the ground with unwillingness. A light breeze blew past, and the broken ground was just like the surface of the moon. Potholes could be seen everywhere, causing one to exclaim in admiration. Yi Hua, who was dressed in godly equipment, did not move, and continued to look at Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground. After a long while, was it fun? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, paused for a moment, but she still did not have any reaction. You are still the same as before. Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi's personality did not change. Then what exactly happened to her? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, could be seen immediately standing up and snorted. Big Bone, you are very boring. Yi Hua sighed. Seems like I have still underestimated Yi Zizi's ability. After coming back to life, she became even more valiant. Just like me, aren't Wei Chang and Lai Gu the same as well? Yi Hua kept the golden flame dark blade in his hand, and summoned out a sharp sword. Dark Abyss Cold Soul. The cold air that was emitted out from the sword caused Yi Zizi to go into a daze. Big Bone, you are shameless. Yi Hua snorted coldly, then leaped high into the air. I am already giving you face by fighting you in close combat. Sword Chi rushed towards Yi Zizi like a raging ocean wave, bringing along a power that could crush everything in the world. The color of the sky suddenly changed. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, focused her gaze, then raised up the blood stirrup lone illumination spear in her hand, and the red light on the spear's body increased by a bit. This was a battle of strength against strength. However, the reason why Yi Hua chose to fight like this was because of their old friendship. And of course, the heart of a warrior was also unavoidable. The moment the two forces collided with each other, the two forces immediately exploded. Boundless power rose from the ground and broke through the layer of blood-red clouds. The terrifying airflow swirled around violently, forming a terrifying astral wind. Big Bone, your strength is indeed not bad, but compared to me, it is still a bit lacking. Yi Zizi laughed. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Is that so? I will let you see what is called strength. Let's wait and see. The two could be seen starting a battle of strength. This kind of scene was just like the end of the world. The ground was trembling, and even the sky had hidden itself deep within the clouds. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of loud sounds reverberated in the world, and the battle between the two had entered into a white-hot stage. The more Yi Zizi fought, the more excited she became, and her strength continued to rise. Coupled with the moon scroll profound armor, she could be said to be invincible in close combat. Chapter 155. In an instant, the two of them instantly separated from each other. Yi Hua looked at Yi Zizi calmly. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi's breathing was a bit chaotic, but her battle prowess was still extraordinary. Yi Zizi, seeing that you have such strength, I am rather happy. Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the godly equipment that he was wearing instantly disappeared, revealing his true form. Yi Zizi calmed her breathing and said in a sweet voice, Big Bone, are you going to admit defeat? Yi Hua's empty eye sockets immediately shone with a red light. Yi Zizi, you don't understand my true strength at all. Alright, you are starting to act cool again. Wait till I break your bones. Let's see if you are still going to act cool then. Yi Zizi snorted coldly, then pierced towards the space between Yi Hua's eyebrows. As for Yi Hua, he just stood at his original spot, and did not take any defensive measures. Blood stirrup solitary illumination blossomed with an incomparably powerful red light. Yi Zizi was planning to grab onto Yi Hua's loophole, and end the battle with a single strike. The idea is good, but just like what Yi Hua said, you don't know how powerful the enemy that you are facing is. Just when the tip of the spear was about to pierce through Yi Hua's skull, it actually stopped abruptly. The distance between the spear and Yi Hua's skull was merely 1 millimeter. From this, it could be seen how strong Yi Hua's control ability was. Yi Zizi was stunned for a moment, and then her expression changed drastically. She wanted to pull away, but she found that she couldn't move her body. Yi Zizi, in actuality, I am able to kill you just by moving my finger. However, do you know why I didn't kill you? Yi Hua said lightly. Yi Zizi didn't answer. She used all her strength, but she couldn't break free from the invisible shackles. Because I can't bear to. Sky Ghost Fire. Yi Hua shouted out faintly. 5 purple flames appeared around Yi Zizi. Each flame intertwined with each other to form a strange fire array. And Yi Zizi was in the middle of the array. Puff. The purple fire array immediately soared into the sky. The huge round purple fire looked as if it wanted to burn the sky, and Yi Zizi was being burned by it. Ah! I'm going to kill you. Yi Zizi roared within the flames, but to no avail. Yi Hua seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, he felt that Yi Zizi, who was in the fire, had a strange movement. You are still thinking of revealing your true form and escaping. You overestimate yourself. Divine Kuan Chain. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, had a drastic change in her expression. How is it possible that I can't even release my main body? The purple flames continued to burn Yi Zizi. The moon scroll mystic armor on her body had already turned purple, but even so, Yi Zizi's ponytails were still fluttering. Big Bone, I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, could no longer endure the burning and loudly begged for mercy. However, Yi Hua ignored him and continued to wait. I admit defeat. What else do you want? A burst of evil aura emerged from the purple flames. Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the so-called evil aura quietly disappeared. Half an hour. 1 hour. 2 hours. You are ruthless. After finished speaking, Yi Zizi fainted. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally managed to make her faint from the fever. Alright, let's see what exactly is going on with you. He stretched out his hand, and a lamp appeared in his hand. The name of this lamp was Moonlight Candle. It was able to illuminate all unknown things and could be easily destroyed. However, it was a pity that it could only be used once, and after it was ignited, it would disappear. Furthermore, it had to be used when the target was at their weakest, otherwise, it would be completely useless. At the start, Yi Hua used his strength to resist against the flames because he wanted to test Yi Zizi's strength. Indeed, it was the same as what he thought. Yi Zizi's strength had indeed increased by a lot. Using Sky Ghost Fire to burn her was just to erase her consciousness, so that he could use Moonlight Candle. Withdrawing his hand, Sky Ghost Fire instantly disappeared, and Yi Zizi was still under Yi Hua's control. Moonlight Candle slowly floated above Yi Zizi's head, and the flame emitted from the wick illuminated Yi Zizi's entire body. Yi Hua's gaze was fixated on Yi Zizi. I hope that this Moonlight Candle will be effective. Slowly, the candle illuminated Yi Zizi's body, as well as her various physiques. Yi Hua was rather familiar with these physiques, and they were considered normal. Suddenly, 3 faint seals appeared above Yi Zizi's head, forming a triangle. Judging from the shape, 2 of the seals were still missing, thus they could not be counted as a complete seal. Yi Hua clenched his fists. To actually dare to place a seal on my subordinate. But Yi Zizi's ability is so strong, who is able to place a seal on her? I will ask her later. Yi Hua lightly tapped with his finger, and the 3 seals immediately shattered. At this moment, Moonlight Candle finished burning and disappeared from the sky. After the seals disappeared, all of the equipment on Yi Zizi's body disappeared as well. Yi Zizi, who was wearing a princess dress, slowly landed on the ground. Yi Hua summoned out his human form, took out a stick of cigarette, lit it up, and waited for Yi Zizi to wake up. After a long time, Yi Zizi, who was lying on the ground, rubbed her big eyes. Where is this place? So hungry. Yi Zizi sat up and pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw an unfamiliar man in front of her, and the man was smoking a cigarette. So handsome, but this man has such a familiar feeling. Yi Zizi. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. Yi Zizi immediately recalled the battle that happened just now, and her pitiful face collapsed, and bean-sized tears immediately flowed out. Big Bone, Yi Zizi ran with all her might, and tears of joy fell down from the sky. Yi Zizi could be seen throwing herself into Yi Hua's embrace and crying bitterly. This is too miserable. Yi Zizi was just like an abandoned child. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief, then patted onto Yi Zizi's head. Where did your imposing manner just now go? Big Bone, I know my mistake. Oh, Big Bone, I miss you so much. Yi Zizi wiped her snot and tears onto Yi Hua's clothes. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. Alright, you have to be punished for doing something wrong. Yi Zizi looked at Yi Hua pitifully, then raised her butt. Don't think that Yi Hua suddenly thought of spanking Yi Zizi, just that in the past, Yi Zizi often made mistakes, so Yi Hua could only spank her butt. Without any politeness, Yi Hua began to teach this mischievous subordinate a lesson. However, the fact that Yi Zizi was able to recover made Yi Hua very happy. Alright. Yi Zizi touched her but then hugged onto Yi Hua's neck. Big Bone, Zizi misses everyone so much. Don't cry anymore, I still have some things that I want to ask you. Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. And Big Bone, ask me, I will tell you everything that I know. When did you wake up? And who placed the seal on you? Yi Zizi said without thinking too much. Around a year ago, Zizi woke up. At that time, there were a lot of priests who were sitting beside Zizi and chanting incantations, and there was even a magic tool placed on top of Zizi's head. When Zizi woke up, Zizi crushed the magic tool and sucked all of them in. After that, Zizi wandered around and discovered that this world is super fun. There are beautiful dresses to wear, just that I am too weak. Big Bone, you also know that Zizi is very lazy, so Zizi thought of a method, which is to gather the more powerful people together and suck them in. Unfortunately, the ones that came were still too weak, and I didn't have enough fun. After that, I met. Your Honor, please forgive Zizi. Woo, Your Honor. Acting coquettishly mode activated. Chapter 156. Yi Zizi stroked her long ponytail. Actually, Yi Zizi still had many abilities that she had yet to display. Unfortunately, she had been defeated just like that. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Being too strong is also a kind of sin. No one is able to evoke my desire to fight, and only my subordinates are able to make me fight. Throwing everything else aside, today's fight was rather comfortable. According to Yi Zizi's description, she should have awakened 5 years ago. It was just that she was discovered by others, and they wanted to control her. Perhaps, even they did not know that it would take so long to cast the seal. After all, Yi Zizi was too powerful. Even after several years, she was only barely able to cast the 3rd layer of the seal. Before the 2nd layer was completed, Yi Zizi had already awakened. It was just that it was amazing that humans had such a magic tool. However, thinking back to those Supremes in the past, they also had many powerful magic tools. It was normal for the people of this world to have 1 or 2. Yi Zizi, who was in his arms, raised her pitiful face and said with grievance, "Big Bone, have you forgiven Zizi?" "I'll forgive you if you don't call me Big Bone." Yi Zizi's face fell. But I've been calling you for a long time. Then I won't forgive you." I'll change, alright?" Yi Zizi rubbed her head against Yi Hua's chest and acted coquettishly. Yi Hua thought for a bit. Right now, Qingya still doesn't know of my identity. If I were to have another little girl as my subordinate, and furthermore, the little girl is a little lowly, wouldn't she think that I am a pervert to have even taken a little lowly as my subordinate? Based on Yi Zizi's personality, it was obvious that she was a follower. Even if he forced her out, he didn't know what kind of trouble she would cause. He had tried it back then, and his game had just begun. He couldn't let Yi Zizi ruin it. It would be better to give her an identity. Yi Zizi opened her eyes wide and looked at Yi Hua. Yi Zizi looked extremely pitiful. "Call me big cousin. When there's no one around, you have to call me Your Honor. Do you understand?" He had to take this opportunity to change the way Yi Zizi addressed him. He had really indulged her too much in the past. Yi Zizi was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, she said, "Big cousin." He thought that Yi Zizi would be conflicted for a while, but he didn't expect her to be so straightforward. Yi Zizi had been in the human world for a year, so she knew that big cousin was a more intimate form of address. This was much better than big bones, so she readily agreed. "Big cousin, I want to see the gluttonous monster and the big bone dragon." Yi Hua knocked onto Yi Zizi's forehead. "When there is no one around, call me Your Honor. Also, don't call them nicknames." Yi Zizi rubbed his forehead, then said while puffing out his cheeks, "Your Honor, Zizi understands." "Go back, Wei Chang will tell you the details." Yes, let's go back." With that, the two of them disappeared from the ruins. After an unknown period of time, a figure suddenly appeared at the scene. He was wearing a purple and gold robe, and had a dragon crown on his head. One look and anyone could tell that he was from a rich family. When this person arrived at the scene, he only looked around curiously. After that, he began to look around anxiously as if he had dropped some treasure. The man could be seen scratching onto his face as he muttered softly. There was clearly a notification that the red packet was right here. Why did it disappear? Did the red packet system make a mistake? Suddenly, 2 black figures knelt in front of the man and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, this place is not suitable to stay for long. A large number of sects are currently gathering here." The man sighed helplessly. "I can only look for an opportunity to come back and take a look." Not long after the man left, countless people rushed over. If Yi Hua was still here, there would be a few familiar faces among the crowd. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chang and Lai Gu sat on a small stool and waited quietly. Tang Wei was standing behind Wei Chang and massaging his shoulders, and Lai Gu was enjoying the service of his 3 women, massaging his shoulders, massaging his hands, and massaging his feet. Who says that having more wives doesn't have any advantages? Why aren't they back yet? Lai Gu was a little annoyed from waiting. It has already been a few hours. If His Honor wants to take care of Zizi, wouldn't it just be a matter of seconds? Could it be? A scene appeared in Lai Gu's mind. Zizi was tied up and His Honor was fiercely whipping Zizi. Your boss. Wei Chang immediately stood up and shouted out. Boss. Lai Gu hurriedly stood up and shouted out. However, there was only the figure of the boss. Where did Zizi go? Could it be? Lai Gu looked at His Honor in disbelief and asked blankly. Boss, where's Zizi? Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette, then walked towards the tent and lightly puffed out a cigarette. Dead. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were completely stunned, as if they were struck by lightning. They were unable to imagine that the adorable Zizi who was in the past died just like that. Lai Gu was evidently even sadder as he sat on the ground and wailed. Zizi, why are you so foolish? Don't you know how to run when you can't win? I haven't even had the chance to let you ride on me yet. Tears were flowing down Wei Chang's old face. Back then, Zizi still wanted to compete with me, but now suddenly, Lai Gu felt that there was one more person on his shoulder and said gravely, Stop messing around, I'm not in the mood. However, even his ears were grabbed. Lai Gu immediately opened his eyes. These women are too outrageous, can't they see that I am in a bad mood? However, looking at the swaying ponytail in front of him, Lai Gu was stunned as he slowly turned his head around. Hee hee, Big Bone Dragon, do you miss Zizi? Yi Zizi could be seen riding on Lai Gu's shoulder while grabbing onto Lai Gu's ears with both of her hands, and said sweetly. Lai Gu didn't know how to express his joy at this moment. The expression on his face was very rich as he immediately soared into the sky. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi shouted excitedly, I finally got to ride on the Big Bone Dragon. After flying into the clouds, Lai Gu immediately revealed his true form. Yi Zizi, who was sitting on the bone dragon's back, looked very small. Roar! Lai Gu's excited dragon roar rang out in the sky. However, quite a few people heard it, and thought that they were hallucinating. And Lai Gu did not roar a second time, because Yi Hua was warning him. Not long later, the two landed on the ground. Yi Zizi pounced onto Wei Chang's embrace and hung onto him like a koala bear. Gluttonous monster. Zizi saw that you cried just now. Wei Chang laughed lightly. You saw wrongly. Hee hee, I didn't see wrongly, you still don't want to admit it. When are you going to compete with me? That will require boss's approval. Wei Chang rubbed onto Yi Zizi's head and laughed. Yi Zizi pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw the four women beside her, and her eyes immediately lit up. Wow, what beautiful clothes, I want to wear them too. In actuality, the four maids were still in a state of shock. Originally, they thought that this little lowly was an enemy, but they didn't expect that in the end, she was actually an ally. The four maids still didn't know what was going on, and appeared very respectful towards Yi Zizi. Where did you buy these clothes from? I want them too. Yi Zizi touched onto the lace skirt and asked curiously. Little lowly and uniform fetish. Wei Chang explained the relationship between everyone to Lai Gu, and Yi Zizi immediately felt that it was unfair. This won't do, all of you have women, Zizi wants a woman too. Wei Chang. Lai Gu. Chapter 157. Wei Chang chuckled and said, Zizi, lower your voice. Don't disturb Madam's rest. Madam? Who is Madam? Yi Zizi asked in confusion. Lai Gu stroked onto Yi Zizi, who was only 2 meters tall, and said with a smile, Boss's wife. Ah. Big cousin has a wife. Yi Zizi exclaimed and immediately covered her mouth. Wei Chang smiled. And with the recent events, Madam is already pregnant. Ah. Isn't his honor just a skeleton? How could it impregnate a human? This is too mystical. I'll go take a look. After saying that, Yi Zizi trotted to the side of the tent and quietly walked in. Yi Zizi could see that his honor was carrying a human woman. And the human woman was so beautiful. Yi Zizi felt that this human woman was the most beautiful human woman that she had ever seen. Yi Hua said faintly, Be quiet. Yi Zizi nodded her head, then went closer to observe for a bit, then said in a low voice, Your honor, can I hug Madam? Be gentler. Yi Hua didn't reject Zizi, Zizi is still a child. Yi Zizi slowly crawled in between the two of them. then lightly hugged onto Qinya and buried her head into Qinya's chest. This action of Yi Zizi made Yihua a bit unhappy. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let her hug onto me. However, the words that I have said are of enormous weight. Not even 20 koan would be able to pull me back. Madame's embrace is so warm, so comfortable. Yi Zizi narrowed her beautiful eyes. No wonder His Honor would like this human woman. The cultivation world's king of vinegar couldn't stand it anymore and said, "All right, let go of me. Your Honor, hug me for a while more, just a while more, I beg of you." Qinya could be seen letting out a light moan. Then stretching out her hand, she hugged onto Yi Zizi. Qinya had definitely mistaken Yi Zizi for Yihua. This infuriated the king of jealousy. Hugging a doll was one thing, but hugging a child, still not letting go. Yihua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi felt wronged and said, "It's not me, it's Madame who is hugging me and not letting go." Yihua could only forcefully pry open Yi Zizi's arms, then push Yi Zizi away from Yi Zizi. Sure enough, Yihua ended up hugging onto Qinya. "Your Honor, you are so stingy," Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth and said. Yihua glared at Yi Zizi, then said in a low voice, "Remember to wait for me at the county town tomorrow." "Oh, I got it," Yi Zizi responded and left the tent. Madame's embrace was so comfortable, soft and soft. Yi Zizi said a few words to Wei Chang, and left for the time being. The future is long. Yihua still didn't know how wrong his decision this time was. If he were to know what his little cousin would do in the future, he would definitely not be able to hold himself back from kicking her out and letting her fend for herself outside. While hugging onto the woman in his embrace, Yihua let out a breath. Yi Zizi doesn't like humans at all, and I didn't expect that she would fall in love with Qinya right away. From this, it could be seen that Qinya is also very unique. Looking at those tender and beautiful red lips, Yihua couldn't help but kiss onto them. So King soft, so King comfortable. Right now, it was already late at night, and Wei Chang and Lai Gu had also walked into their own tent. Not long after, Lai Gu's tent began to shake crazily. However, Lai Gu was very smart to set up a barrier, so as to not disturb His Honor. Wei Chang's side was not as straightforward as Lai Gu. Looking at Lai Gu's tent, Wei Chang felt very envious. "Uncle Wei, it is already so late, quickly come in and rest." Tang Wei opened up a corner of the tent and called out tenderly. Right now, Wei Chang really wanted to ask His Honor for a stick of cigarette to calm himself down. "Uncle Wei," Tang Wei shouted out with a red face. Wei Chang immediately revealed out a firm gaze. "I will do as His Honor said. I will just directly push her down." Seeing that Uncle Wei was walking over, Tang Wei shyly hid into the tent. Her face was completely red, and she was extremely nervous. After entering the tent, the entire tent could be seen to be decorated with red as the theme. Looking at Tang Wei, who had her head lowered and had a bashful look on her face, Wei Chang swallowed his saliva. What should I do now? Seeing that Uncle Wei was looking at her blankly, Tang Wei lightly bit onto her lower lip, then slowly undid her clothes. Wei Chang was startled. "Tang Wei, what are you doing?" "I am taking off my clothes to sleep." Tang Wei's face was about to bleed. Uncle Wei is so stupid. What else can I do besides taking off my clothes? Wei Chang could be seen stretching out both of his hands. Tang Wei felt that her heart was about to jump out. Uncle Wei finally took the initiative. But Wei Chang put on Tang Wei's clothes and said with concern, "It is cold in the valley at night. It is better to wear clothes to sleep." Tang Wei. First blood, a drop of blood. Right now there was a huge shadow in Tang Wei's heart. "Uncle Wei, can you be a bit more honest?" Wei Chang let out a breath and immediately lied down. What should I do? How should I push Uncle Wei? Seeing that Uncle Wei lied down, Tang Wei also lied down beside Uncle Wei, and the tent became quiet again. After a long while, Tang Wei turned over and lightly hugged onto Wei Chang. Meanwhile, Wei Chang stretched out his hand and hugged onto Tang Wei's slender waist. This time, Tang Wei felt that there was hope as she said shyly, "Uncle Wei, don't you want to?" "I want to," Wei Chang said gravely. "Then why are you still in a daze?" Tang Wei felt that she was going to dig a hole in the ground. "I have already hinted to Uncle Wei crazily. Why isn't there any reaction from Uncle Wei?" Wei Chang sighed. I want to sleep, but I really can't sleep. Puff. Double kill, double kill. Tang Wei immediately felt a wave of dizziness. I really want to cry. Does anyone have any good ideas? After a while, Tang Wei calmed herself down. I don't believe that Uncle Wei doesn't understand. I have done my homework before coming here. Tang Wei slowly stretched out her slender hand and stroked onto Uncle Wei's chest. Do you still not understand? Wei Chang was very gratified as he laughed tenderly. Xiao Tang, Uncle Wei isn't tired. I don't need you to massage me. Puff. Triple kill, triple kill. Uncle Wei actually feels that I am giving him a massage. My God. Why is it like this? Seems like I can only use my trump card. Tang Wei could be seen making up her mind. While stroking onto Wei Chang's chest, she let out a very alluring moan. Which man would be able to endure it? Tang Wei doesn't believe it. Wei Chang could be seen being startled as he asked with concern. Xiao Tang, what's wrong? Is it because your respiratory tract is infected? Puff. Quadruple, quadruple kill. Tang Wei felt as if she was struck by lightning from a clear sky. Being struck by the lightning, Wei Chang said worriedly. This valley is humid. You have to pay attention to your body, do you understand? Tang Wei didn't speak. She was already unable to think normally. In the past, I thought that Uncle Wei's illness was only mild, but from the looks of it, it is not just mild, it is very serious. This is an illness. I have to treat it. Right now, Tang Wei felt that she must definitely cure Uncle Wei's illness. No matter how shameless she is, she must save Uncle Wei. Tang Wei could be seen hugging onto Wei Chang's arm and said tenderly, Uncle Wei, you can be at ease. Today is my safe period. Nothing will happen to me. Wei Chang stroked onto Tang Wei's hair and said gravely, Uncle Wei knows with Uncle Wei here, not only today. You will be safe from today onwards. Pentakill, pentakill. Ace, your woman has already been killed by you. Tang Wei felt that Uncle Wei was incurable. Oh my God. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.